Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to SimPlay Motorsport. It is the Pro Series tonight that gets to take to this famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway circuit, the Brickyard, here in what is going to be a fantastic night of action. Sweet and sticky back in your box. Mathew Duffin and Kelly Davis bringing you all the action live tonight. And Kelly, what a famous circuit. And an early morning race. The temperatures are very, very cold, as well as the track not yet running at optimum condition.
Absolutely, yes. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. It's Thursday night, race night. Just before we get into that, Matt, I'd just like to tell everyone that congratulations is in order. That Matt here gave birth. Well, Matt didn't actually give birth, but Matt is now the father of his new arrival, Ayrton Duffin. Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
And being that the special guy that you are, the Team Audio Sport, best team on the grid, quality not quantity, have chosen to give you to change their livery, especially for you this evening, and gone for an Ayrton Senna style livery in celebration of your new arrival. How special. It
really appreciative of that from Dan and Ben and the Audio Sport team. It's great to hear. Yeah, thanks everybody for the kind words over the week just gone. Fantastic to see that Audio Sport, running that Ayrton Senna famous yellow, green and blue. It's a real nice touch, and thank you and the team so much.
Absolutely no problem. I had nothing to do with it whatsoever, but I knew nothing about it until about 20 minutes ago. Thanks to the guys for doing that, and just for everyone at home, mother and baby all okay, all good?
Mum and baby well, mum's recovering from C-section, baby absolutely fine. They're sat in the other room at the moment, ready to go.
Excellent. So, congratulations, Matt. Let's move on to Indianapolis.
Yeah, we move on to Indianapolis. We have just lost a driver, I've noticed, on that time screen. We're down to the 17 drivers. It's a shame for the Pro this, because we've got over 30 signed up, and we're only at the 18 driver mark. So it is a bit of a shame to not see more out there at the moment from the Pro category. But the Brickyard, what a famous circuit. And obviously one thing we've got to mention, Kelly, the first week of the drop scores. So real big week in terms of that drivers' points are a little all over the place at the moment. We don't know who, is kind of roughly where in the championship standings due to these drop rounds. But it is Torlock who leads the way. He's sadly not here tonight. Silthy's P2, 3 points behind. Jamal Cloud was running in third place. Great start to the season for him. After what was a pretty poor Brands, this is where the drop scores kind of make it look a little, up and down at the moment. Jamal had a pretty dismal, I say dismal Brands, kind of, 2 top tens, not really anything to scream about for Jamal. But then he had a great week last week. Good couple of races there. Hoopert is P4. Dan Davis is running P5 with Matt Wright in 6th. Michael Harris is P7. Patrick Ledger P8. Kieran O'Reilly is P9. Sky Schudelmeyer P10. Mike Matthews 11th. Ben Rook is P12 with Overtake 13th, Skunky 14th, Tobias Hoffer, McGowan, Viper. Then it is Richard Beasley, Gary Leach, Fraser O'Brien, Darren Yo, Unsworth, Coe, Bates. And still yet to see Yako, Rosnov, Richie, Newman, Burton, Colin, Cruis and Ellie out there on the grid this evening. In terms of that Constructors' Championship fight, MSA Racing 83 points clear of Team Audio Sport, Greasy Bandits a third place, SimPlay Racing sat in fourth with Team FBR fifth, and it's Quantum Motorsport, Old School Racers, Scuderia Tempesta, Team SPR, Effect Motorsport and Red Rum Racing bringing up the rear. In Indianapolis, Kelly, I'm a big fan of this. This was my pick for this season.
Sure.
I'm a huge fan of this. What's your thoughts on this circuit? It's a very strange track. You don't really see much of this about.
No, and we had this discussion off air about this particular layout. It's not quite the Grand Prix layout, and it's not quite the motorbike layout, and it's a bit of a mix of a couple of layouts here of this circuit. Of course, the original Indianapolis, the one that they do, the Indy 500, is an oval and goes the opposite way round. So this kind of infield was set up originally for the Formula One, as used for all kinds of disciplines now, except for Formula One, of course. Am I a fan of the track? It's not the worst, but it's not a go-to track. I've only done on this particular format with us being on ACC. I've only this week done a few laps on this track to try and see what it's like. I found it tricky and very low grip.
Tricky and low grip. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that is the bonus of the morning race, isn't it? It is going to provide us with these tricky conditions. It is going to provide us with these difficult sort of challenges. What we're looking at, 10 degrees track temp, Kelly. It is, I think it's about 6 o'clock in the morning. So it is a very, very difficult night to be in. It is, though, a 2.439 mile circuit, 3.925 in kilometres. It's 15 corners, 5 left, 10 right-handers, which is strange for an American track to go right-hander. I can tell you that it's actually the opposite direction to what the Indy 500 run. They come down over the start-finish straight. We go up it. So it is you go the opposite way around.
I did say that just a few moments ago.
Oh, did you? Apologies. I was just
multitasking.
John has just sent me the grid order through, so I was just adding that ready to do the grid order. Pole position normally starts on the right-hand side. We are back up to 18 drivers. Whoever left is back in. The ACC lap record is a 1:34.0. Now, these records could be set in the optimal hot lap conditions, done by, you'll never guess which car set it.
Mustang?
Yeah, you will be correct in the Ford Mustang that's OP around this circuit. The most successful driver around here, though, is the man we're on board with at the moment, Dan Davis. 2 pole positions and 3 race wins to his name. But listen to this list of names, because we are going old school sim play here. Maze Gamer, 1 pole and 2 wins. Sutty Apex, he actually won a race back in the day. Gary 131, aka Gary Leach, he's had a pole and a win here, believe it or not. That Bozzy Boy has had a win around here. Holty a pole and a win. Big Boy Brazier with a pole. Monkey Boy's had a pole. Disco McDisco Face, Rabbit Joe, and in recent times Tim Venting, Kyle, Carlos, Tordock, Ramey Fernie, John Gooday, and Stardog as well. So a few blasts from the past there, especially when you think of the names of like Maze Gamer and Big Boy Brazier.
Yes. Absolutely. Some old school names for SimPlay. We say old school. It was only a few years ago, but Dan gets very out of shape there, pushing the limits. I never did very well at this one. American tracks were my thing back in Project Cars days, but I never seemed to do that well around this one for some reason. But nevertheless, again, Matt, very, very close tonight. Only a second separating all the way down to 13th at the moment. Considering it's 2 3/4 miles, it's a fair enough length track. So very close grid again. It's going to be interesting racing, especially with the reverse grid, the way we start.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting racing, that is for sure. And when you look at the top of the time sheets, Overtaker's just gone quickest, only a 10th quicker than, I suppose, Kelly, at the moment, a bit of a surprise package at the top of the order, ahead of the Fords of Silf and Hoopert, ahead of O'Reilly, ahead of Dan Davis, is Mike Matthews, Mr. himself from all them years ago. He's managing to sort of put on a good display at the moment and looking pretty good in his Ferrari.
Yes, he's looking like he's got some pace tonight. Can he translate that into qualifying and the race? Well, we'll certainly see. Let's hope so. We always cheered on, if you're new to watching us or listening to us, we always used to cheer on Peaceful Explosion, Mike Matthews, and then he'd managed to drop it. So we decided not to use his name anymore and just called him so that he wouldn't crash, but he still did.
Yeah, still did.
Yeah.
Couple of things tonight that we have to look out for, I suppose, really, Kelly, is the BOP, obviously a talking point each and every week, because it shows you kind of what car is more, is more dominant or more prominent at this circuit. No surprise. In fact, I've got to scroll back because that is Spa, that's Brands Hatch, there's Indianapolis. Ferrari is the car to watch tonight. Now, if we remember back to last week of Spa, Ford Mustang 29 kilograms. The next most was that of the McLaren on 9. So it was an 18 kilogram swing in Ford to McLaren being the first and second most bop car. Here is only 4 kilograms. The Ferrari carries 14 kilograms in Mike Matthews' hands. The Ford of the likes of Silf and Hoopert and and an Overtaker, that carries 10. The Lamborghini Evo 2 of Patrick Ledger, that'll carry 10 kilograms as well. There is no Audis or Mercedes. The Aston Martin V8 Vantage of Ben, that'll carry 3 kilograms. The M4 of Michael Harris will carry 1. And then the McLaren Evo will lose 3 kilograms. Now, here's the interesting thing for me. The old Ferrari 488 Evo, the PS4 car, is only minus 4 kilograms. The Porsche 992 of Dan and Sky Schundelmeyer is minus 5 kilograms. So they reckon that the old Ferrari is better than the Porsche around this circuit. That, for me, is interesting to see. The Nissan is also minus 5. And then I'm just looking, the Honda, the real, so I do say beneficiary of the weight loss here. It's minus 25 kilograms. The Lexus as well, minus 25. Which, you know, and the BOP obviously meant to bring things to make it more balanced. This is going to be an interesting one to see. There is no Dennis Newman, so it's kind of messed up the grid order also, just point out.
Right. Yes, and we're nearly ready to go for the formation lap for the first race of this evening. The 20-minute sprint with a pit stop. On pole is Darren Yeo. He will be on pole, and O'Brien next to him. And Gary Leach there in third as well, Mr. Rock Up and Do It. So it's going to be interesting into turn 1. I think it's going to be an interesting first couple of laps at least. So don't go away, that's for sure.
Who are you putting your money on looking at his lineup at the moment?
Out of this lineup, I would like to see Daz, any of the top 3 to be honest. Daz or Gary would be a real nice one, but I'm thinking maybe Viper or Skunky. Overtaker's not far back either, and we know he's got pace around here.
Yeah, Mathew's only down in 9th place as well. He looks like he's got pace.
Yeah, I think Viper is probably one of the quickest new school guys who's quite high up the grid. So
I think, I mean, I don't know how you feel on this. I feel like we've not seen the best of Viper yet.
No, I agree, and I think to a point Skunky as well. You know, I think
100%.
Caught up in some incidents, and it's not panned out well for him. So as I said, keep an eye on Overtaker. He's got Ben of Team Audio Sport right behind him. As you say, Mike Matthews in there as well, and of course the quick guys at the back. You know, from Dan Davis in 15th, Hupert and Clouden, Silth, all at the back there. Let's see what they can do. I thought it was a more easier track to overtake, but I was disagreed with, so possibly not. Easy to overtake, possibly your best shot at it's got to be into turn 1, is it not? I'm
going to say turn 1. I'm probably going to say down to where Darren Yeo's coming now, back end of the circuit. I think they're your 2 overtaking possibilities. The grid order though for tonight is as follows, so there is no Dennis Newman, so everybody gets bumped up a place. Dennis was due to start on pole position, but as we now know, it will be that of Darren Yeo rocking up on pole with Fraser O'Brien 2nd place, Gary Leach in 3rd. And alongside Gary Leach will now be Richard Beasley. On that 3rd row of the grid will then be Viper and Skunky, the 2 teammates from the old school races. They've got a bit of work to do. I think they've got to really kickstart their season this year. Overtaker will then be out now up to 7th alongside Ben Rook. He'll have what will then be Mike Matthews just behind him in P9, even though it says Sky Schundelmeyer. I think that's because they've gone through the sector time. Then it'll be Sky Schundelmeyer and Kieran O'Reilly. Then it'll be Patrick Ledger and Michael Harris. And then Matt Wright and Dan Davis before Benjamin Hupert and Jamal Clouden. And then Silth. In fact, no, to be Clouden alongside Silth, on the back row of the grid. Unless they come towards an end. They'll be in double file now, and the time will tell you to just maybe start to go through the procedure of sticking to a speed limit in just a couple of moments' time. And you can see everybody now just going double file. It's going to be an interesting one as well, Kelly. The other thing to mention, and we'll get into this a bit more as the race sort of develops, obviously we've got to wait for that pit window to come through. But what a long pit lane this is.
Oh, yeah, painfully long. But we'll talk about that, as I said, when they start to pit a little bit. Because it's Daz on pole, and he's got O'Brien next to him.
It is.
As they come
Kieran
across
O'Reilly.
the brickyard.
By the way, Kieran O'Reilly, drive-through penalty, and this is not the track you want to drive-through penalty. Is look at Gary Leach, he's looking to squeeze through the middle of his teammates, and Fraser O'Brien at the start breaks a bit earlier than O'Brien. Daz breaks earlier than the pair, but has to really get on the brakes, has to bunny up over the curb, loses out to all three. Skunky gets through, and Daz has tapped round once again. Another race start for Darren Yeo. It's gone horribly wrong. That is a Ford Mustang number that is a BMW of Michael Harris in the grass, but it's gone horribly wrong for Darren Yeo. Already at turn one, another incident.
Absolutely. If bad luck is all the luck he's got. And he again.
O'Reilly, sorry Kelly's just been spun around, and Dan and Schundelmeyer ported him like Moses ported the Red Sea, and that was so close to call, but Dan and Guy Schundelmeyer somehow hang on in there, and already O'Brien's got the foot down up front.
Absolutely. I'm just switching over to my laptop to try and see it. Watching the start over again, and poor old Darren got knocked round in turn one, and a couple of the guys ploughed into him. But it's O'Brien, and Ben's made a hell of a jump up the order.
Yeah,
into second place at the moment.
He's lost out to Overtaker's lost out to him at the moment, so Ben has made a real good jump, but Overtaker so far, he has got Skunky not a million miles behind.
And Dan's made up. What's Dan made up?
Nine places he's covered up at the moment at the beginning of this race. O'Reilly's got that drive-through, and the drive-through penalty here will lose you 44 seconds. It'll lose you 46% of the lap. Like Kelly's just said, it's over before it's really begun. Schundelmeyer's trying to stick with Dan. Here's Richard Beasley. Mike Matthews got caught up on lap one. I think he had to avoid Daz and was on the grass. Doesn't look like he's got damage, but he's on the back of Hoopert already. He's got work to do. He is ahead of Jamal Clouden, who's got past Sylph. What happened to Gary? Didn't see what quite happened to him, as he's down in 16th place, so he's had a terrible start as well. But Overtaker's starting to close in on Ben Ruck. Fraser O'Brien, though, he's got out early and he's trying to check out, and really good tactic from him.
Absolutely. So a lot's happened in one lap. We're only into partway through the second lap, and there's lots and lots of changes. Lots of changes indeed. It's been chaos in lap one. A lot of these I don't know how they happened, but O'Brien's out in front, and he's pulling a second away now from Ben, who's in second. Ben's probably very conscious that Overtaker is quick round here.
He is indeed, as we're watching Viper coming down the back straight. Dan takes the racing line. Viper's covering that inside line, and as Dan's going to try and ground the outside, no, tries to tuck back in behind, and he does indeed, as we say thank you to Tracy and to Ian Best and to Peter who stepped that on the congratulations. Dan is glued to the back of this Ferrari, and he's taking Sky Schundelmeyer, who Tracy says keep an eye on, but Sky's bringing Patrick Ledger and Richard Beasley with him. This is Viper, though, could do with a decent result here. He's got a qualifying ban coming up for the second race, and Dan's now going to try and tuck underneath, looking in towards the final part of the lap. Dan's got a car alongside, but that corner really tightens up, and the outside does seem the favourable line.
I thought Dan was going to plough into the back of him then, but he managed, got it slowed down and onto the apex. But he did give Viper a little bit of breathing space. I think Dan would have been better off trying to stay with him and do him into turn one. But hey, what do I know? I'm not a 10-time champion.
Yeah, exactly. We're watching Ben Ruck now. On the back is Overtaker, who sets the fastest lap of the race, trying to put pressure on him there. We've got Hoopert down the order, having a look up the inside of Godzilla himself. Matt Wright, race winner in race one last time out at Spa, and Hoopert up the inside. Matt Wright doesn't fight that one too hard. Mike Matthews and Jamal Clouden have dropped down the order. They're down in 16th and 17th place here then. So what has happened to them two? Them two had a bit of a coming together, because they are well down the order at the moment.
Yeah, we've got Stilth and Harris are having a bit of a ding-dong into the first couple of corners, fighting over 12th and 13th place at the moment. Indeed they are. This is coming through the long left-hander, the worst corner on this circuit for me. You really have to, it's as Kelly Davis would say, a hurry up and wait kind of corner, and that is exactly what it is. As Patrick Ledger now is trying to get onto the back of Sky Schundelmeyer, that Lamborghini looks a good car around here. We'll see what he can do. Dan's still within that half a second of Viper, and Overtaker still on the back of Ben Ruck. Ben's not let Fraser O'Brien get away from him though, Kelly, out front. No, he certainly hasn't, and I'll just go on with Overtaker and Ben. Overtaker, as you say, still within half a second of Ben, and yeah, O'Brien's pulling away just very slightly, but not at a rate of knots. Still 1.6 in front of Ben. Yeah, It's probably the closest battle on track at the moment. Overtaker on the back of Rook and Dan on the back of Viper.
Oh, and here we go. This could be the call of the day. Sylph is coming to the pit lane. As the pit window opens, the limiter is now, so he is bang on target for his pit stop.
Yeah.
That is timed to perfection by Sylph. That could be the strategy of the race. Straight in.
Yeah.
There is Clouden, who comes charging in the background, nearly into the back of Darren Yeo. Will that have been speeding in the pit lane? We'll have to find out, and Mike Matthews follows them in as well. But at the minute, gap opening up between Fraser O'Brien and Ben Rook, who's still got Overtaker on the back of him. Dan still breathing down the neck of Viper. Hooper still trying to... He's getting closer to Beasley now that he's been able to pull away from Harris and get past Matt Wright. But down the order, cars all in the pit lane. And if you look at the little track map, look, as the race leader O'Brien comes down in towards the S's at the bottom of the back straight, O'Reilly's only just entered the pit lane, and in fact he's not fully in it till now, and that is how much time you're losing around here with that drive-through penalty. Hooper took the inside of Beasley, just gives him a tap up the inside door for his troubles. A pit stop around this circuit, Kelly, with tyres, which we may see in the second race, will cost you 79 seconds, 83% of your lap. So it will cost you 74 seconds. I'm going to say around 80% of the lap without tyres. That is a long, long time in the pit lane.
And that's why I say with a drive-through, it's over, you know, because you can't. Dan comes into the pits, you can't spend that time, waste that time. The pit lane is the whole length and then some of the main straight. It actually starts before the main straight on the last corner, and then runs the whole
There we
length.
go. Sorry, Kelly. Jamal Clouden was definitely speeding into the pit lane, and the drive-through penalty will prove that. I tell you what, he nearly ploughed into the back of Darren Yeo, and I thought it looked a little quick. He's been lucky there, Kelly, not to get a stop-go penalty, which is normally the traditional one.
Absolutely, but as I said, that's going to be race over. That is for him, because he's not going to come back from that, not in 12.5 minutes.
We're keeping our eye on Hoopert at the moment. Remember, he pulled that masterclass of getting in the pit lane, knowing that the window was going to open by the time he'd gotten to the pit marker board. He's coming through the S's at the moment. The lead car in the pits is Dan Davis. Now, Dan's done his pit stop. Now, you'd think, great, Dan has done. But let's go on the cockpit of Dan's car. And you see them orange bollards just in front while you're trundling down pit lane at this speed. That is where the pit limiter is. On that right-hand side, the sign of the S by the orange bollards, that is where the pit limiter line is. You can see car 433 is entering around the final couple of corners now, and he's going to be flat scat through this right-hand bend, Kelly, as Dan and everybody are still on that pit limiter. This is what makes it so long.
Yep, on the track map, as you can see, still coming away at a rate of knots, but Dan is off the limiter. And he's into the first corner. Dan's going to get there, but the other guys still going to come right in on top of
Matt Wright.
Matt Wright, yes, absolutely. So good strategy, though.
Yeah, good strategy. He wasn't as close to the back of these guys as what he was before the pit stops. That's moved him a little closer to the likes of Dan, as Ben Rook and Richard Beasley both come into the pit. So it's Fraser O'Brien from Overtaker, Skunky from Viper with Shungelmeyer in P5, Patrick Leisure from Michael Harris, and it's Gary Leach down the order. Jamal Clouden's in for that stop-go penalty, and by the way, with Jamal Clouden in for that drive-through penalty, has Jamal stopped the car? Oh, Jamal stopped the car in the pits, Kelly. I think he thought he had a stop-go.
Oh, right. Oh, dear.
Well, that's just helped Fraser. That's just helped Kieran O'Reilly, who's had a drive for himself. Well, he's going to gain that. Kieran O'Reilly gains that place, and that's really going to help him the world of good in this one at the moment, as that's got down to Matt Wright and Sylph, who are having a gigantic battle in two gigantic cars.
Absolutely. Ben Rook is in and on his way out of the pit lane. Now, he was in second when he came into the pits. He's on his way out. Dan's just coming round the final corner to give you some perspective.
In fact, I think Dan's going to jump him here, Kelly.
I don't know. It's going to be tight, Matt. I think Ben's going to come off the limiter now. Dan's going to be level with him. It's going to be... You crash into each other, you two.
Well, Dan was a couple of cars behind Ben, let's not forget. Dan is now, let's see the way the camera pans round. Where is Ben? Just there. That is a great stop from Dan Davis. Undercut may be strong here. Then Overtaker's in the pits. If the undercut's strong, that could be huge for Dan to get onto the back of Overtaker. Let's not forget, Overtaker was about half a second off the back of Ben, and I think Viper was the car then behind. No, it was then Skunky, then Viper. Well, you ain't getting Overtaker, Skunky and Viper in between Dan and Ben at the moment, so somebody's either lost out or gained places.
Yes, indeed. Overtaker came into his box. He hesitated a little bit coming into his box, so I don't think he hit his marks just as well as he should have done. But I hope these boys are taking note. It looks like the undercut is powerful here, so we'll see how it pans out as Ben is now coming round the back end of the circuit, round towards the chicane at the back end of the circuit. Away. Overtaker is away. And of course he's trundling along at 50 miles an hour, or is it kilometres? No, miles an hour, isn't it? No,
yeah, no, it's 70 kilometres, 50 miles an hour, I do believe you're right, yeah. So here we go, here comes Ben then. He's the lead car on the pit stops at the moment. Jamal Clouden will unlap himself from his teammate. Here comes Ben and Dan. Car 24, that Sky Schundelmeyer, he's pretty close to the back of Overtaker as well, but that'll all change when they come off the limiter. Overtaker's now off the pit limiter. Ben is now level with Overtaker. Stop-go penalty for Sky Schundelmeyer, so he's been speeding in the pits, and Overtaker has just jumped Ben Rook. So Overtaker with the undercut jumps Ben, and now Ben's got work to do to get back in front of Overtaker. So well then, we said great strategy call from Dan Davis, even better strategy call from Overtaker.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was obviously a fantastic stop from Overtaker. Put the time in when he needed to, and he jumps Ben. So can Ben catch him? He's got his teammate Dan right behind him, right behind him. Is there going to be some team orders? Is Ben going to let Dan go after Overtaker? Well, if you remember back to last week, Dan and Overtaker had handbags at Spa. And some controversy last week. If you didn't see it, when you've got time, go back and watch it. But not now, of course, because the racing is live and we're right here. Which reminds me, sorry, Matt, just 2 seconds while I think about it. I've got to say hello to Adam this evening from Cornwall Kawasaki Centre, who's next door to my workshop. He should be watching. Good evening, Adam. I hope you are watching and enjoying the racing. Sorry, Matt, go on.
Good evening to Adam. I noticed Fraser O'Brien had started to move from his pit box a lot earlier than what Overtaker had. Schundelmeyer's got a stop-go penalty. Yep, seen that one. So he's now into the pits. Where is Fraser O'Brien? Here he comes. Overtaker then could try and be in the net lead of this race. Down the back straight he comes. O'Brien's off the limiter. He will not be in the net lead of this race, but Overtaker will be up to second place. But look at Dan. He's jumped ahead of Skunky in the pit. So Dan Davis has done the business in the pit lane. Now this closest fight on the track is between the two teammates of Ben and Dan Davis. And Overtaker sat second place now, behind Fraser O'Brien, who's took the fastest lap back as Fraser O'Brien. Where's Mike Matthews at all this? He's 13th. So that stop go for Sky Schundelmeyer is going to hurt him. That'll help O'Reilly and Clouden at least gain another position in this one. But at the minute, the closest fight on track is Dan and Ben at the moment, the two Audio Sport drivers. And I'm just wondering here, Kelly. Yep, there's the call. Call's been made. Ben struggled to get out the corner. He stayed tight to the inside. And I think he's letting Dan have a full attack at Overtaker here. And I think this is good from the Audio Sport drivers. Dan seems to have a bit more pace than Ben. And this could be them saying, right, Dan, go and get them. And you know what Dan's like, Kelly? If he can't get Overtaker, he will return that position if it's capable.
Yep. People may think I'm biased, but it is the best team on the grid. The most rounded, the most professional. The most lovely and fluffy.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Hoopert's P7. He's jumped ahead of Skunky as well. The only car who's yet to pit is Viper. And by the way, Viper's he's leaving this tight, Kelly. 56 seconds. He's not. He's coming up towards the end of sector 2. Sky Schundelmeyer's stop go's been cleared. Harris is now in the pit. This is mighty close for that of Michael Harris at the moment. Sorry, for that of Viper, who's coming. Oh no, he's got plenty of time. He's into the third to last corner now, and will be into the pits. So he's gone long in hopes of a good result.
Absolutely, done exactly the opposite to what Stilth did earlier. So yeah, let's see how that pans out for him. He was in front of Dan. Yeah. Where was he? Fourth, fifth, maybe? Origin before the round of pit stops?
I think he was. Yes, it was O'Brien, Ben, Overtaker, Skunky, Viper, I do believe.
Yeah, so he's in 5th place before the round of pit stops. Let's see how this has panned out for him. Of course, it also depends on how his lap times have been, you know, in that period. So we'll see how this pans out. But he's in his pit box now, taking his pit stop. Where is O'Brien? O'Brien is...
car 47. He's just coming through the S's at the moment. So possible, it just depends when he turns green. That's going to be the question, because Fraser O'Brien turned green around about now and came out well in front of Overtaker, whereas the closer you get towards, he is moving, so this one's going to be very, very tight. Will he split Overtaker and O'Brien? Taker, by the way, he's just took 0.4 of a second out of O'Brien through that middle sector, so that's going to be an interesting one to see there. But we're currently watching Patrick Ledger and Sylph, closest fight on track at the moment. And Dan has put 1.4 seconds between him and his teammate, just proving, I think, the pace that Dan has had over Ben tonight. Ben's going to start to struggle with Ben Hoopert on the back of him in a moment, it looks like. So it's going to be interesting to see there. And here comes the 47, the 777 still on the pit limiter, and Viper's not going to get this one. But look at Overtaker, he's really cut that gap to Fraser O'Brien. Will Viper get Dan Davis? No, he won't, and it's not going to matter. It's all going to be for nothing. Stop-go penalty, and that has ruined what could have been that good result that Viper needed.
Absolutely, and to be fair, he's going to come out behind Hooper, which is 7th. So even if he didn't have that stop-go, he still wouldn't have gained massively, you know. So yeah, probably all things being equal, probably better to go early than late. Yeah,
it seemed to be, but I wouldn't say the undercut is strong, because obviously Overtaker overcut Ben, so it seems pretty equal around here. But I think you're right. I think it's maybe better to go earlier and closer together than what it is to maybe go later and leaving it as long as you possibly can. Overtaker on Fraser O'Brien. Now, this is for the lead of this race. The gap's come right down. And Overtaker just trying to hassle the back of Fraser O'Brien. Dan's 1.6 behind. He's going to be waiting in the wings here. That'll be for sure, as Overtaker's coming through this middle section of the lap. And now comes back out to the outside of the circuit. Hard on the power. Mike's now going to be up into that 12th place. He was second quickest in practice. Poor race from Mike. But what this does as well is it hopes Guy Schundelmeyer and Jamal Clouden and O'Reilly, who've all had drive-throughs and stop-goes because of Viper's stop-go penalty to his name. Jamal's had a shocker in this race. Sky had a stop-go penalty and Jamal still come out 3 seconds behind him.
Yes, absolutely. He hasn't had the best of races, and yeah, put it down to experience and move on to the feature, innit?
Oh, Hoopert in the background, just seen there, just bouncing off the wall as he's really on the back of Ben. Stop-go penalty, 2 laps remaining to take that for Viper. So that's going to be an interesting one to see. Just going to drop down to Hoopert, who's having a look up the inside of Ben in towards turn 1. Gets alongside Ben, bounces over the curb, very, very close. You couldn't put a sheet of paper between them. I think a little tap there, but Ben manages to hold on to the position. Skunky as well is hunting down his teammate who's got that stop-go penalty. But here we go, Kelly. 3 for the lead with about 2 to go, because Dan's now under a second to Overtaker.
He certainly is, and that first corner is quickly followed by the second corner, which makes it quite easy to defend turn 2, puts you in the right position again. So yes, it is tricky to overtake round there, that's for sure. Dan just kicking up the dirt. Looks like he just blew a couple of miles.
Something's happened with O'Brien. Overtaker's got past him. Dan's now breezed past him. So what's happened to Fraser O'Brien? Has he gone a little lighter on the fuel? But something's happened. And Overtaker and Dan have just both breezed past him, and that could allow Overtaker to now pull away. Was Dan catching Overtaker due to Overtaker being held up, or is Dan just... or did Dan have more pace? I suppose that's going to be the question we find out now. Dan's lost 1.4 seconds, but like you say, kicked up the dirt. Hoopert now has got past Ben as well in the background, and Viper's on the back of Ben, but Viper's got that stop-go penalty to his name that he needs to get served, otherwise it will just be added to his race time at the end. And a long pit lane here, you imagine a long stop-go penalty it is going to be. He's not taking it his laps, he's going to stay out. So now Overtaker leads this race from Dan Davis to 3-1-3. That is Gary Leach, who's had a moment down the back straight, and Darren Yost has got past him.
Yes, indeed. What happened to O'Brien? What happened to him to slow? He seems to be back on the pace now. Did he have a moment? Did he run against the wall? Did he... I don't know. He just lost the lead. Well, lost 2 places in a straight, but he seems to be back on the pace again now, because Dan's not getting away from him.
I'm wondering if that dirt kicked up was partly Dan, but mainly more a bit from Fraser O'Brien, because he was so slow, and Dan was a second behind Overtaker. Overtaker some 4/10 behind O'Brien, so O'Brien lost nearly 2 seconds to Dan in all of that. So very strange at the moment, but he's on the back of Dan. Last lap of this race, and there is a battle down the order between the 35, the 313. And I'll tell you what, O'Reilly might be able to get both the Team SPR cars with a lap to go. O'Brien kicking up that dirt again. This looks like it's going to go the way of Overtaker though, because he's really been on form this one.
Yeah, I think it's too late in the day for Dan to come back. And I think Dan is once again on the edge of the grip with that Porsche. He has a couple of leery moments, and I think Dan's probably more worried about O'Brien than he is Overtaker.
I don't think he is, Kelly, because O'Brien's coming under pressure from Hooper. Then as Hooper now puts a couple of wheels onto the grass, O'Brien, he's slow again, Kelly. He's really slow again. Well, I'm not sure what has happened here, but he's being overtaken. Hooper's gone through, Ben's gone through, Viper's gone through, Skunky may even get him, Silk's going to get him as well. So at the very end he's gone slow, but Overtaker then comes round the final corner. It's been a while since he's won a race. He looked good last week, he's going to look good this week. It is race win for Overtaker, and he'll take the first win of the night. Dan Davis second place, Hooper's at the very end coming towards the line, he gets P3, from them that of Ben Rook. Then it is Viper, but 20 second time penalty for Viper. That'll be interesting to see what happens. So we won't go through the rest of the grid order, as we will have to wait to see what that penalty will be. But a great win for Overtaker. You have to wonder though what happened to O'Brien's wheel to O'Brien at the end.
He sat in the wall. He hasn't completed the race. He's reversing up now, but he never completed. He run into the wall. Has been sat touching the wall for the last. He's
going to lose out to Darren Yeo here, it looks like. Darren Yeo's going to get the run on him, so Darren Yeo gets past. That's another place for him. Gary Leach might be sitting pretty at another place. O'Reilly didn't get close enough. I don't think Gary is going to get there, so Darren Yeo's going to finish 13th, an extra place for him. Fraser O'Brien, after leading the entire race, Kelly, from the start pretty much. Gary and O'Brien come together there, not sure what happened, and we just have to wait for Schundelmeyer, who's in a fight with that of Jamal Clouden before we can finish. Before we can take the points. But what a start to tonight's race. It has been chaos already. Yep. And Turn 1 dramas once again here at SimPlay Motorsport. That seems to be the repeating theme at the moment. Turn 1 collisions, no matter what the category is, GT4, Pro-Am or Pro. That seems to be, Kelly, the big talking point of this season.
Well, we've got the reverse grid as well, being that the quick boys at the back and all the rest of it. So I think that certainly contributes to the lap 1 incidents. And hey, it's great viewing for us.
And there we go. Look, that shows how bad Viper's penalty was. He finished behind Schundelmeyer and Clouden, who's just had to do pretty much an entire lap extra to get to the end. But that was it for race 1. We'll be back in a few moments' time with race 2. Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen, to SimPlay Motorsport. What an epic first race it was, but again, I suppose the talking points, bar Overtaker's fantastic pit strategy to win the race, was that turn one incident, Kelly. We've been speaking off air about the races at one, turn one, lap one, but week in, week out across GT4s, Pro-Am and Pro, this seems to be the repetitive theme, isn't it? And we've just been saying off air that this seems to be the way of sim racing, and you were saying that, you know, because there is no fines for damage of the car, you're not going to injure yourself. You know, that sim racers seem to try and get away with it.
Yeah, it seems to be that sim racers in general, I'm not pointing any fingers at anyone particular, but sim racers in general seem to be very pushy and seem to try and have no patience for lining people up and overtaking them. They tend to just push. You know, and again, I was saying off air, as you were saying, Matt, that there's no fear. There's no one's going to get hurt. No one's going to cost anybody anything. You know, and that's the element that we can never introduce into sim racing. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. You know, and you kind of, this is the way. But we've been finding this season a lot of turn one incidents. And I think this is because of it. Everyone's trying to win the race in turn one. And Rob Smith in the chat, funnily enough, said everyone knows that you win the race in turn one. I feel like you're being sarcastic there, Rob. You know, you've got to finish at the end. And, Overtaker, Overtaker's quick. He had a great strategy for that race, but he did start 8th. All things, or 8th or 9th.
He started 8th or 9th, and he was behind Ben. Ben. Pulled that blinding pit strategy. Not sure what happened to Fraser for him to get the lead of the race, but he won. Dan started 15th and was 2nd place. 15th. Let's not forget that one. There's 18 drivers. There was only 3 drivers to start behind Dan, and Dan finished 2nd. Just proving the race isn't won at turn 1. Either way, we turn our attention to the qualifying session and the championship order. Silf now leads the way, but obviously drop scores don't take effect until after race 2. And these results are only provisional until the stewards have finished their reports. Tables will go out. Obviously, if you missed the tables this week on the social media accounts of Facebook and Instagram, apologies on that one. I left the folder on my PC, not in the Google Drive for Dan or Mike to be able to have a look at. I'd left the folder on my PC. And obviously, due to baby being born, tables wasn't done. So apologies on my end. But the tables
I'll let you off this week.
Thank you very much.
That's
tables
right.
at the minute look like Sylph Davis in 2nd place, Hoopert from Tordock overtaking Matt Wright, Ben Rook, Patrick Ledger, Jamal Clouden drops from 3rd to 9th, Harris from Skunky, Mike Matthews, Kieran O'Reilly, Sky Shundlemeyer, Beasley, Viper, Hoffer, Gary Leach, Fraser O'Brien, Darren Yeo, Ian McGowan, Scott Unsworth, Co, Bates, and then the rest haven't even started a single race yet. In terms of then the manufacturers, it is 26, 40, in fact it's under 100 points that separate MSA Racing all the way down to Team FBR, but it's Team Audio Sport, Creasy Bandits, SimPlay Racing, Team FBR, Quantum Motorsport, Old School Racers, Scuderia Tempesta, Team SPR, Effect Motorsport and Red Rum Racing. In that manufacturers championship, it's becoming a bit of a 2-horse race with McLaren and McLaren and Porsche starting to pull away. Ferrari are sat P3. But it's McLaren who look like they're going to maybe take it after a dominant Ferrari win last season. Qualifying times, though, Kelly, have started to come in, and it is currently this man's Sylph provisional pole with Dan Davis now rocking up into 2nd place. Patrick Ledger's down to come across the line. He moves up into 6th. Shundlemeyer's next. There's Harris, Viper and Leach in the pits. Viper cannot qualify for this race, and Shundlemeyer moves up into P11. Next car is Darren Yeo, currently in 15th place to set a time.
Interesting in the chat. We'll get into the chat in just a minute because I want to throw up a talking point. But Rob Smith saying Fraser's wheel disconnected, which we guessed might have been the problem, and he got stuck in gear. That was the problem that he had at the end of the race. That must be absolutely gutted. We've heard he's had wheel problems before, so give Fanatec a ring.
I'm not even sure if he's on a Fanatec, but give Fanatec a ring. No. You want to raise a talking point, Kelly, which I think is an interesting one. Go on, let's hear it. By the way, can we just point out, even after that 20-minute race, the track is still only in fast conditions, just showing how cool it is with only 18 drivers. It's not rubbering up, Kelly.
10 degrees. It's like a February in Cornwall, to be fair. So yes, talking point, and just hello to all you guys in the chat. I know we haven't turned to you guys much already. It seems to be hectic the first part of the evening with this sprint race. But did anybody see the F1 reveal show, opening show for the season on Sky Sports? If you didn't, it's basically a reveal of the different liveries for the year. If you didn't see it, then you need to go go and see it and whatever. What I wanted to talk about was I watched it. Would I say I thought it was brilliant? No, but I did enjoy it. But there was aspects of it that I didn't like, which I thought were rubbish or tacky or just inappropriate. But all in all, it was okay. I was then looking through social media and reading comments and so on and so forth, and there was an awful lot of people, probably the majority, that said it was an awful load of rubbish, and it was a waste of time, waste of money, blah blah blah. I came on this evening, chatted with Matt here and Dan and Mike and so on and so forth about this, and we certainly had mixed opinions. So we'll throw a couple of opinions around here in a sec, what we liked and what we didn't like. But what we want to hear from you guys in the chat: did you see it? What did you think? Do you think it was worth doing? And what did you think was good about it? And what do you think was bad about it? Feel free to comment in the chat, and let's hear all about it. Matt, your thoughts on it?
I had mixed reviews. I'm going to put it like this, and this is no disrespect to the Americans, but since Liberty Media have came in and taken ownership of it, everything's got an American feel to it. And what do I say by that? Is I'm a big lover of the NFL, the American football. Love watching the Super Bowl. I watch it year in, year out. The Super Bowl is a spectacle, right? When we think of a sport in this country, we think of something like the World Cup. For when you're watching England or the World Cup, you watch the World Cup final, it's not a show. It's about the two teams taking to the pitch to play a game of football, and that's it. With the Super Bowl and the American stuff, it's a show. Yeah. The whole thing is a show.
Yeah. I mean, the whoever plays the Super Bowl in the break is big news, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
This year it was Kendrick Lamar, big Super Bowl halftime show, 45 minutes or half an hour set. He gets to go through his song list, and a big thing. This is where I think F1 is going. Gone are the days of an F1 grid where it's fully focused, ball the national anthem, fully focused on whatever. All you've got is some DJ in the background thumping out music. You know, it's A-listers and celebrities everywhere. And I just think F1 is losing touch of what F1 is. That being said, with this F1 launches, I liked the idea. I liked the concept of what it could have been. Yeah. Do all the cars in one day, make a bit of a show of it. Great. For me, it was too Americanised in the way it was done. You could tell by the awful DJ for Alpine and the horrible dancers for Red Bull Racing behind Max Verstappen and Liam Lawson. Yeah. I think it was for F1 and Liberty Media to line their pockets, get all the corporate sponsors in, get everybody in, pay a lot of money, buy a lot of drinks, you know, charge money to the public if you want to, for them to come in and watch at the O2 Arena. Probably overpriced tickets for that. To go and watch a car be released that was free on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Too corporate for me. Yeah. You said it felt like a BAFTA Awards. Couldn't agree more. Brit Awards, BAFTA Awards, whichever one. Yeah. Not the biggest Jack Whitehall fan. I thought some of his jokes was funny, but I thought it was more cheesy than comical.
Yeah, see, my points are exactly the same. Now, all the teams do a reveal, so why not all do it together? I think in concept it's a good idea. It needs, as you say, de-Americise, can't even say that, needs a different format, but it almost marks beginning of the season. Now, I'm excited about Formula One again. You know, it's on its way. We're going to Bahrain, and this marks the beginning. The teams do all the reveals. Why not do them all at once? Why not make a show of it? Brilliant. Jack Whitehall, again, I was a little bit more... I don't dislike Jack Whitehall. I think he's a funny guy, but it felt like the Brit Awards, and his type of comedy I didn't think was appropriate for the show. And I also thought again that the the Alpine DJ was an insult to DJs in general. That was rubbish. If you saw the look on Fatboy Slim's face when he was playing, that said it all. And Red Bull, what were they doing? My God, were they off to the drive-through or what? You know, I mean, that was just horrendous. But on the other hand, Ferrari, McLaren particularly with their old school cars on stage was brilliant. Ferrari's heritage, very, very good, you know, stuff like that. Again, let's hear your comments, guys. Give us, you know, if you haven't spoken on the chat before, or if you're a regular commenter, then please, let's have it.
Because I think the thing for me as well, Kelly, is, and I said this off air to you before the broadcast, is I used to look forward to the car launch day. You'd always be like, oh, who's launching today, who's launching tomorrow, and you'd always be picking at who's launching which day in the week. And this kind of week made it interesting. recent years, I feel that all the cars just look the same, and I'm not talking in terms of what's on the car. I'm talking decals. You know, gone are the days with McLaren where it's like, will they be orange this year? Oh no, it's the same as last year and the year before. Red Bull is just identical. Ferrari, they've splashed out on a bit of white. Alpine have changed their design. Kick have changed their design. The best looking car was the V-Carb, the Visa Cash Out Racing Bulls, or Red Bull Junior team, if you want to call them that. You know, Haas looked the same. Aston Martin looked the same. And it just kind of took away. I think that the car reveal in F1 has gone for a while because everybody just keep doing the same livery, especially now that they're trying to run this carbon fibre look for the weight of the paint, which I understand, but I think it's taken away from the launch of the car. I like the event doing it all in one place, one day. Yes, great. Did it need to be an Americanized show? Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Which makes me beg the question, Kelly, could they all not just do it on the... You know, so we look at the British touring cars in this country, and I'll give you the example. 15th of April, I believe, is Media Day at Donington Park. I'm going. And what Media Day is it's the final day for drivers and teams to be announced in the cars, right? The day before that is all the media... pictures, interviews, blah, 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 right? The day where it's open to the public for free, bearing in mind, for free, is a practice session in the morning, a lunch break with a pit lane walkabout, a practice session in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Everything is free. Bar, obviously, food and drink at the circuit that the circuit will sell. Everything is free. Should F1 go to Bahrain pre-season testing and the day before have a media day where nobody can go, and all it is there's your Ferrari been revealed, there's your McLaren been revealed, and they're all revealed at Bahrain in one day. All the press work is done, all the bits are done, job done.
Absolutely, and this is exactly it. And we've always sing the praises of British touring car, and I think you know, if our arms were twisted behind our backs and we were made to watch, or you know, just one discipline, I think we'd all pick touring car. Yeah. You know, us being,
especially as Brits.
You know, I'm speaking for you and me, Matt and Dan,
100%,
and a few others. You know, we would give up Formula One over touring car every day of the week and twice on Sundays. You know, we always look at that as a benchmark of reality and grassroots motorsport, you know. But Formula One is, I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate now. Formula One is about the pinnacle, it is about money, and you're always going to get all the teams trying to outdo the other ones in their presentation. So it's always going to be that way, you know, in Formula One. So look, I mean, we've thrown it out there. There is a couple of responses, and Rob Smith, my good Cornish friend, watched it on YouTube. McLaren is sexy as hell. Yes, I'm just going back to your point about liveries. Of course, we're at the end of we've got a major rule change next year. You know, these guys are treading water on these cars, so not a lot was going to change, to be honest. It was probably not the best year to start this format, but yes, the McLarens were sexy as hell, and Rob Smith again could have made it a quicker event with all the crap music between the manufacturers. Agreed. Prize marks is Whitehall was brilliant, fair enough, each to their own, as I said, and Susie Creamcheese couldn't give a toss, so fair play. Yeah,
I'm fully in agreement. As well as I say that about the British touring cars, we speak about one. British GT is a free event at Silverstone this year. That is at the end of March. Another free event.
Is there hang on? Is there a Honda on the grid this year?
There is. I wasn't bringing it. I wasn't bringing it up for that reason, but you know, I was bringing it up for the fact of it's another free event.
Yeah.
And if we go off that, look, Hondas, Ferraris, Porsches, Mercedes, Aston Martins, BMWs, McLarens, Lamborghinis, you know, a great variety of cars, you know, that are all fantastic. Free day. And they'll do all the media work the day before. Free pit lane. It was at Donington Park last year. I had the privilege of being there for that one, in which Monkey Boy let me down, actually. He was meant to meet me, but because it rained, he didn't turn up.
Monkey Boy.
But, you know, it was a free day, free pit lane walkabout. Great to get some autographs of the cars in the middle. Great to watch 2 practice sessions. Jess Hawkins was there with one of the Aston Martin teams because she was racing in it last year. Obviously, Aston Martin development driver or whatever she is at Aston Martin F1 and stuff. So it was a great day. And again, just another series that I think get it right. You know, at the end of the day, I don't think F1, and this may be controversial in the chat. I don't think F1 is the pinnacle of motorsport anymore. I think it's world endurance.
I think it's still the most money and the most coverage.
Most money and most coverage.
Yeah.
Pinnacle in terms of the drivers and the competition nowadays. No, I don't think so.
Well, absolutely, and that is a valid point, Matt. Absolutely, and another thing we said. I mean, it's money was another thing we talked about and said we're going to have a discussion point about money in motorsport. At the end of the day, as we're at the end of qualifying and Kieran O'Reilly provisionally on pole as they're still coming to the end. The fact of the matter is the best motorsport you can see on British television is right now.
Yeah,
and we are watching it. Because there is no money. This is pure racing. It's at its most rawest level, and long live sim racing, really.
Right, watch your headphones. Dan's 3/10 off the pole. We've been here before. We're not going there again. But what a grid. The top 7 are separated by 0.3 of a second. We had a bit of a rant. We didn't really cover quali. It is the Honda that takes pole position of Kieran O'Reilly. 0.07 of a second quicker than Hoopert, who is only 0.02 quicker than Sylph. Overtaker P3, Mike Matthews P5, Dan Davis P6, Patrick Ledger 0.3 off in P7, nice. Skunky 0.4 off in P8, O'Brien just under half a second in P9, Ben Rook 0.6 off in P10, Jamal Clouden was 0.6 off in P11, and I could keep going and going and going here, but a couple of comments as well. Just as we get towards the start of this race, I would choose F1 over BTCC any day of the week, says Rob Smith. Fair play. The Aston Martin livery in the British GT is awesome. That one is in the GT4, the black and purple. Matt, did you ever go to Renault World Series at Donny? That was a great free weekend racing. I did, loved it. I went to the one at Silverstone, I believe, as well. IndyCar miles better than F1. Richard Beasley couldn't agree more. And I don't watch much IndyCar, but I think it's fantastic. No. GT racing better than F1 WEC. Than touring cars. So GT, F1, World Endurance and touring cars for Rob Smith. Fair point. Yeah. Fair point.
Absolutely, and each their own. Do you know what I mean? And we haven't even mentioned V8 supercars or rallycross, World Rallycross, stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? There's so many great disciplines and each their own. Thank you very much, guys, for your chat. One other thing I'll throw out there as an idea. Does anybody think that, or would anybody listen to myself and Matt and Dan Davis doing a podcast? Let us know your thoughts. So, we are lined up on the grid. We are 20 seconds from the start. It is already round 6, Matt. Can you believe that?
Yeah, round 6 of a 24-race season. It's flying by. In another 3 weeks' time, we're at the halfway stage of that season.
Yeah. Absolutely, and the other thing I was going to say was spare a thought for Fraser O'Brien. He's qualified 9th, only half a second off the pole, half a second, and end up 9th. I'd be gutted.
Let me load up the timetable, because you say that 6/10 Ben is 10th, 6.5 Clouden in 11th, 9/10 is Richard Beasley, 1 second is Darren Yeo for 13th place. So half a second covering the top 9 is mightily impressive. Let's not forget we're missing people like Tardock, Ethan Coe. There is no. Who else would talk about at the front that we've seen already this season? Just them two, really, I think, that we're missing. Joe Bates, I don't think he's going to be at the front anymore. We're missing a few drivers either way that would be up there. Yeah. PM Motorsport, it's GT, WEC, BTCC always before F1. And Plava says WRC way better than F1. Plava's going to say that. Anything?
I read that. Sorry, Matt. I read PN's very quickly. As PN's Motorsport Trains is his username now. I read that as PN Motorsport. Trains and rallying better than F1. Don't matter. I was going to tell Phil to get a life, but that's reading brilliant. Things quickly.
Trains and rallying. The attended genie, which is Hoopert in the chat, so they lost 2.5 tenths in the second to last corner. That would have probably put Hoopert on pole there. Then Rob Smith, podcast name: 3 heads are worse than none. There we go.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm sure we could come up with some names for a podcast. I'll give that some thought. But yeah.
And you're right what you say. We've got a bit more of a formation lap here. V8 supercars not well known much in this country, but I even think I'd even put that as a highly rated series with IndyCar.
Great series, yeah.
I know NASCAR's a very big series. I'm not a fan. Again, it's not that big in this country compared to IndyCar.
World Touring Car,
which is no longer a thing. don't do it anymore. But you've then got the 4 or 5 different. You've got the Intercontinental GT, which is more of your 12 hours of Spa, 12 hours of Bathurst, 24 hours of Spa, stuff like that. You then got your British GT, GT World Challenge, which is the main one, GT in Asia, GT in Australia, GT in America. So you've got all them series, which I find are brilliant to watch. They're all free on YouTube. Touring cars, TCR, stuff like that, I think they're fantastic. If you're a bike fan, fair play. I'm not really into bikes myself, so I don't know much about them. But I think, I'm more heading the way of like touring cars and British GT are up there for me, my top 2. And then I'm sort of looking at WEC and IMSA, the American endurance series, in which Porsche, Penske and Acura and Cadillac and all them people compete in the hypercar class there. I look at that as better than F1 nowadays because of its competitiveness.
Do you know what, Matt? I think probably myself, being of an older generation, I don't use YouTube that much, not as much as I should, although I do have a YouTube channel at Audio Sport, but I don't use it that much, and I really should, but we're about to go racing, and maybe I should view more than just Formula 1 and touring cars.
I think you should. We're green and go here for the second race, and I'll tell you what, Sylph was in a good position there. He was a little further forward than O'Reilly there, well within his rights, because he didn't get the drive-through penalty. You can see the 2 Mustangs waiting in the wings behind of Overtaker and that of Hooper. Dan late on the brakes, right round the outside of Overtaker, who's nearly made contact with each other. Dan rejoins. Oh, I say rejoins. He wasn't really off the circuit. Him and Overtaker still side by side. Let's watch down this battle at the moment at the start race. Everybody's through turn 1 pretty cleanly. Overtaker nearly into the back of O'Reilly. Brakes so deep and so late that ends up cup chopping the nose off of Dan Davis as well. And again, these two, is this handbags already? It seemed a bit of tit for tat later on the brakes. Overtaker and Dan sending him round the outside.
Yes, well, at least they kept it all together and pointing in the right direction, because for a minute there, I thought they were going to spin it round, but yes, and we got a change for the lead. Harris in the lead, no, Hooper in the lead. Well, my screen's all gone mad. That's ridiculous. Forget what I was saying, because Harris is at the back. He must have spun.
Harris is at the back. The 302's had a big moment. That is Skunky down the order. We're still currently on board with Overtaker at the minute. Fraser O'Brien's on the back of Mike Matthews for 7th and 8th there. Dave dropped down a couple of places. Ben Rook stayed 10th. He's lost out to Sky Shundelmeyer. Sky's had a good start. It says he's 15th on my timing screen, so either that or, in fact, no, I think Ben has actually tumbled down the order. It is Ben who's tumbled down the order, not Sky who's climbed up. Gary was 17th on the grid. He sat P10. He's gained 7 places on lap 1. The master of the mid-session tweak has done it again.
Yep. He has, and putting it together in race 2 like he always does. Let's see how far he can take it. But up a handful of places in that first half lap, because this is just the end of the first lap now.
It is indeed. Dan Davis now going to defend on that of Sylph just behind him. Sylph's going to try and go the long way around the outside like Dan tried to do to Overtaker in the first part. And Dan and Sylph side by side. No contact made. Dan gets back in front just about. Little twitch there from Dan. I'm not sure if that caught Sylph out a little bit, but either way, Sylph went very, very wide, and now Dan Davis manages to keep hold of that position. That's allowed Patrick Ledger to come onto the back of Sylph a little bit here then, and if we just drop back down the order again, Sky Shundelmeyer on the back of that Nissan of Matt Wright at the moment.
Yes, indeed. I think Dan just had a little bit of a wiggle on traction and just caught. I don't think he touched Stealth, but certainly made him think about moving, and he certainly did, which lost him a little bit of ground. But no real harm done. But Overtaker being dropped just slightly by Kieran O'Reilly, who's being dropped just a little bit by Hooper now.
It is indeed, obviously, long way to go. The 1 hour race pit window will open around that 35-minute mark. Skunky's got a long way to go to catch up to the back of this pack. We've already seen some drive-throughs and stop-goes for speeding in the pits. Will we see any more in this second race, as the race has already started? A little bit quieter, though, at the beginning of this one. Dan's now within 3/10 of Taker. Overtaker going defensive, runs a little deep. Dan gets alongside him, coming into the penultimate corner. Dan looking for the switch back, the up and under. Overtaker very slow out the corner, and Dan tries to get a better run. This could allow Sylph up the inside of Dan Davis, and that from Overtaker is a little bit of genius there. Overtaker's now gone defensive on Sylph. That'll also, though, give Sylph a slipstream, and Dan Davis will be a sitting duck in a Porsche that's a little lacking in a straight line. Now pulls into the pair of their slipstream. Overtaker defensive. Here comes Sylph towards the outside of Overtaker. It was Dan last lap, it's Overtaker this lap. Dan trying to go back up the inside, and Overtaker and Sylph now side by side together. Dan's trying to follow Sylph through on Overtaker. Can he fight around the outside? Taker's now holding on to that inside line, breaking into turn 3. Taker and Silf touch. Dan's going to come back on the inside on Silf. Is he going to get the job on Overtaker? No, he's not. Patrick Ledger's also there on Silf as well. He has to tuck back in behind with Mike Matthews and that of Fraser O'Brien watching on. But Overtaker and Silf, definite contact that time round by Silf.
Absolutely fantastic racing. Then they end up where they started. Dan instigated that whole thing. Oh, Dan's on the grass, gone a little bit wide. That's going to put Stealth up the inside and cleanly through into that position. So a rare mistake from Daniel there. But Daniel started this all off, and it all ended up just playing out the same. Dan, as you said, I think he's struggling with power down the straight against these Mustangs.
He is indeed, and I tell you what, it is a train behind Overtaker at the moment.
Yeah.
Dan Davis, Patrick Ledger, Mike Matthews, Fraser O'Brien, Richard Beasley, and near enough Gary Leach in that Lexus. Jamal Clouden's running P11. He's got Matt Wright near the back of him. Then it's Schundelmeyer and Ben. Not having the best of race twos here, Ben, at the moment. He made a mistake and dropped down the order. Don't know why. He's got to fight back. Darren Yost 15th. He'll be pleased to have not been tapped round at turn 1. Then it's Viper, Michael Harris and Skunky. And I tell you what, for Harris and Skunky and Viper, they really need a good round. It's just not going for them at the moment, is it? They just can't seem to put a round together. Here we go, though, once again. Overtaker with Hoopert on the back. I'm not sure what Overtaker is flashing at here.
No, I don't either.
Pulls to the outside.
Through?
I think he's let Silf through there.
Why? Why did you just lead him through?
I'm not
What
sure.
was that about? It looked to me like he backed off. He went to the outside.
He 100% backed off.
What was that all about? Why would he do that?
Did he feel like he maybe was at fault for the contact with Silf? I'm not 100% sure. Is he trying to follow Silf through? I don't really know, but either way, Overtaker at the moment lets Silf through, and that's put him under pressure from Dan Davis now.
Absolutely. Overtaker was taking the KLF position and holding everyone up because it was Overtaker in third and the rest of the pack in fourth. But he let Stealth go, and I still don't, even though they touched, it's not, and I mean this with no disrespect, it's not Overtaker's style.
Well, I thought it was more on Silf turning in on Overtaker than Overtaker, hitting Silf. I thought, so it's a strange one there. I'm not sure why. Overtaker's definitely got a train in the road here. That's O'Brien who's on the grass. I saw sideways as we was watching Overtaker come through the S's. And there he is. Oh, he's all over the place. He's round once again. And now Jamal Clouden's got a run on Gary Leach. That's going up the inside towards the back part of the Indy circuit. So O'Brien's had another nightmare here. Jamal Clouden finds 2 places, does he? Because Gary's going to come back up the inside of Clouden. Can't get it done there, though, can Gary. Now Matt Wright's having a look. And, interesting. If Overtaker was lost out to Dan Davis.
I think Overtaker must have gone wide because Dan's just slipped down the inside on the last corner, but Overtaker has got the power. Dan goes defensive, moves across the track, and I think Overtaker might have the power to drag this back again, but he must have made a mistake because Dan was comfortably down the inside.
Well, Overtaker deep around the outside. Dan bounces off the curb and he's clunked it hard, and that's really put the end to that battle at the moment. And Silf has got away here. Taker struggling in this second race. Doesn't look as comfortable as he did in race 1, Kelly. That's to say the least.
Certainly doesn't look as good as Stealth and Hubert in the Mustangs. He seems to be struggling, and the rest of the pack are right there with him, waiting for him to make a mistake. As Dan has a look down the inside, Overtaker going almost a kart line. I think he's just struggling to pull it into the apexes.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Kelly. And Dan gets that slipstream once again, coming down the back straight. Overtaker moves across to his braking zone, as he's rightly entitled to do, and now breaks into the hairpin, comes across into the middle of the circuit under braking a little bit there, and that didn't seem to hurt him too much in terms of getting a bad exit through the S's. Not that Dan's going to probably look to make a move through the S's. It's a very difficult part of the track to overtake on, but this is the battle for P4 and 5 at the moment. Dan must be cursing at himself in that car at the moment, because I reckon Dan's got more pace to maybe stick with Silf than what Overtaker has at this stage of the race. Dan just cannot get past Overtaker, and I think it's because of the start straights and the back straight.
I think it's all about power. I think Dan's car is more hooked up in the corners. That's what's making him quick. But along this straight, Overtaker has the power, and I think that's what Dan. I said it before. I think the best overtaking spot is into 1, although you can defend 2 very easily. But Dan can't get close to him.
Oh, Overtaker heavily. I was going to say Overtaker heavily on the brakes there. Dan still made the corner. And yeah, interesting to see at the moment. But that's then gave Overtaker a good run through one. And Dan was on the back foot there. Patrick Ledger's not a million miles away off the back of Dan Davis, you know, in P6 at the moment. He's just behind Dan Davis himself so far. He's brought Mike Matthews along for the ride as well. So interesting to see here. But Dan's got to do something here. The question is, what can he do? Because when he gets to a good overtaking opportunity, it's after a back straight, it's after a long straight on the grass. Dan has a wiggle at the moment. He's up. He's in the wall. Dan's in the wall. And again, Kelly, it's another race. Dan's made his own mistake.
Yes, indeed, pushing the limits by the looks of it, and he's gone wide there a few times. Seems to be a bit of an Achilles heel for him there. It is a weird corner. It's weird to hug the apex of the corner. It seems you think it's opened up, and then you run out of space on the outside. That's certainly taken the pressure off Overtaker, and Dan's got a lot of work to do now and damage.
Now we've got to see what Overtaker can do in this race. Can he now pull away from Ledger, or is Ledger now going to be able to attack the back of Overtaker? That's going to be the biggest question to ask here for sure in this race.
Yes, indeed. Certainly pushing the limits, these guys. Good evening to Phil in the chat. Hi, Phil. How you doing? One of my ex-teammates. I hope you're very well. And has wrote an essay this evening. I'm struggling to read that because my glasses are filthy. Moving man goes sweet and sticky. Yeah, loving the race this evening. That he is just enjoying. Yeah, great.
Yeah,
lovely day for you, Phil.
Somebody's being shown the mechanical meatball flag over the start line. See it being waved. I don't know who. The only person I know with any damage is Dan.
What would he be getting a mechanical flag for? There's no.
That would have to be some.
That
would have to be some significant damage to the car. You get the meatball flag when the car is pretty undrivable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a bit wide through there, but it doesn't look in a bad way to me. Patrick Ledger is under a second to Overtaker, so he's bringing the gap down. Mike Matthews has now took the Dan Davis line and gone onto the grass a little bit down the back straight. We're watching Sky Schundelmeyer with Ben. I can't see that meatball flag, so I'm wondering if it's been something has glitched out somewhere, and that's why we're being shown the meatball flag. Because I can't see it elsewhere on this circuit, Kelly.
Things happen in the sim world, and they happen weird, especially in America. So it could be one of those. What was I looking at? Still with the fastest lap now. Is he dragging that time down to O'Reilly? Well, not at a rate of knots, no. But he is the quickest man on the track at the moment.
Yeah, but O'Reilly has brought 3/10 down to Hoopert over the last couple of laps, so he's also chipping away at the leader. Patrick Ledger as well, by the way, is bringing that time down to Overtaker, so Overtaker at the moment just hasn't got a lot of speed in that Mercedes, in that Ford Mustang. Whatever happened, he's done from race 1 to 2, and I can only assume he's had fuel, because I don't see why Overtaker would have changed the car setup too much, because he looked good in race 1, and here doesn't look as racy.
Absolutely, and Ledger's right there with him still, isn't he? We wondered if Ledger was going to drag up to the back of him, and he's not a million miles away. I mean, he's not hassling Overtaker too much at the moment, but he's certainly there or thereabouts.
And he's brought
and Mike Matthews still in the mix
he's took Mike Matthews with him, and he's chipped away at Overtaker. That is for sure. In this one at the moment, then, as through they all go now. And this is going to be interesting to see what the sector times are. He's lost 2/10 there. In fact, that's Ledger who's lost time over Overtaker gaining the time, because he also lost 1/10 or 2 to Mike Matthews.
Yes, indeed. And no huge fights on track right at the moment. Matt Wright is getting right up behind Gary Leach now for 10th and 11th place. And they're in close company at the moment. And Ben half a second off Schundelmeyer, so but no significant battles at the moment. All line astern, Overtaker, Ledger, Mike Matthews.
Here we go. Something's happened to Silf, because he's now 6.4 off the back of O'Reilly, and O'Reilly's within 7/10 of a second of Hoopert here. So the Honda NSX, which again isn't a beast in the straight line compared to the Ford Mustang. So whatever he's doing, he's got something right at the moment. And Patrick Ledger as well, Kelly, looking in the background, is right under the rear wing of Overtaker's Ford Mustang. So far, the Ford Mustang's just not looking as dominant, I'd say, as they've seen before in previous weeks.
No, absolutely. It's not running off into the sunset at all, or the sunrise as it happens to be. Ledger close on the back. O'Reilly must have had an absolute stonking couple of laps, because he took so much time out of Hubert.
It was 1.42 laps ago, and now it's 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, I'm going to have a look at his times right now. Did the fastest lap. Oh no, sorry, wrong one. Hang on. Let's move back. Try that again. And who am I looking at? O'Reilly. O'Reilly doing purple sectors. Did a purple sector lap 6. Purple sector on this one lap 8. Middle sector, the fastest of anybody. And he's 35.3, 35.3, 35.2, 35.4. So really consistent on his lap times. Mid 35s to early 35s all the way over the last 4 or 5 laps. So got good pace, Matt.
Yeah, got great pace at the minute, just not close enough to Hupert so far. As Patrick Ledger has just dropped off the back of Overtaker a couple of tenths. That's just pulled him back into Mike Matthews. Dan Davis, by the way, is dropping off the back of Mike Matthews. Yeah. So that damage, you'd have to say, to Dan Davis's Porsche is enough to keep him ahead of what is now Jamal Cloudon, as I can see Richard Beasley tumbling down that standing. So he's lost out. So Dan Davis staying ahead of Jamal Cloudon at the moment by a couple of seconds, but isn't able to close up to the back.
Beasley in the wall.
That is why then, Richard Beasley, let's take a look. Oh, big damage. Big damage.
Yeah. And 3 of them into the last chicane. That was Viper and Rook and
Harris.
And Harris, all into the last chicane. Very, very close company.
So Ben's had another moment.
He must have done, yeah. Viper right on the back of him now. They all came down into that section as one. And Harris got off best out of that.
He did indeed. We're back with the Patrick Ledger, Mike Matthews and an Overtaker fight for 4th, 5th and 6th. Beasley's had to come into the pits. I'm not surprised with there was a lot of damage on that car. That's going to be a huge pit stop, especially 9 minutes before the window. An Overtaker at the minute, just ebbing and flowing between Ledger. He's ebbing and flowing though between the cars around him, isn't he? One lap he's close to Overtaker, the next he's a bit closer to Mike Matthews.
Absolutely. And it certainly is nip and tuck at the moment. I'm still watching Ben as he's having a scrap now with Harris. He goes up the inside as they're through the S's. Harris has got the line for the next corner. I don't know if you're following this one at all, but it's very close company.
Harris.
And where Harris goes, right wide,
very
through.
Well, I did just see in the chat earlier that Michael Harris also struggling with some technical problems like Fraser O'Brien, so maybe that was the problem there then, as O'Reilly back out front, look, in that slipstream of the Ford Mustang of Hupert. But this is where that Ford Mustang of Hupert can just pull away from Kieran O'Reilly. The fact that O'Reilly's 4 tenths off the back of this Mustang is just going to show the testament of what work he's doing in this Honda. We know compared to Project Cars 2, Kelly, with the Acura, that the Honda is a much stronger car on this game than Project Cars 2.
Yeah.
But still isn't as strong as the Ford Mustang. It's a testament to O'Reilly at the minute.
Absolutely, he's either doing absolute wonders with that Honda, and hats off to him. It certainly seems to be making it work. As you say, it's not as it's a much better car than it was on the Project 2 cars. The Acura wasn't great. You know, all Honda jokes aside, like it wasn't just didn't have it on Project. Oh, Hubert is on the rag for sure. He's sideways through the S's there. O'Reilly would have seen that he's struggling, and Mustangs not all that today.
Not all that today, and Patrick Ledger still within 6 tenths of Overtaker at the moment, but Mike Matthews, interestingly, has lost out 1.9 seconds, or at least 1.3 seconds to Ledger, has been caught by Dan Davis, dropping back. Jamal Cloudon's got Gary Leach still for company. He's not been at the front like I think we expected him to be tonight as Jamal Cloudon. He struggled a little bit. Viper hassling the back of that Aston Martin. This is really the closest fight. It says 4 tenths of a second. That is not 4 tenths of a second, as Viper just braking on the grass and has a bit of a twitch, and that'll put a bit more daylight between the two cars. Kieran O'Reilly though just cannot do anything about this Mustang in front.
No, not at the moment, but we've got a long way to go, you know what I said earlier about patience, and what we said about it's not all done in turn one. So Kieran just biding his time. Down the main straight, he's losing nothing to the Mustang at all. Nothing.
Yeah, he's losing nothing. That slipstream's going to be helping. That's probably the thing, though, isn't it? Is the slipstream's helping him lose nothing. But is it helping him gain anything? And I suppose that's the question we have to ask at the moment. As here we see then Ledger still 7 tenths off the back. Dan Davis now, as Mike's lost even more time to Patrick Ledger and Overtaker. Dan Davis right up the back of his former teammate, the guy that he won 3 Constructors' Championships with. And Dan Davis then just trying to hassle the back of his teammate. Wonder if Mike's got any damage anywhere. We know Dan's definitely going to have a bit of damage somewhere. He clipped the wall at this section of the circuit, Kelly, which we've seen him run wide a few times, and manages to get it bang on that time.
Yes, absolutely, and I say it's a funny old corner. It kind of the apex is unsighted as you pull out onto that straight, and it's very easy to go wide. And certainly Dan's done it a couple of times, and it's bitten him. Yeah, but he's all over the back of Mike now. He might try and line him up down the main straight, but again, has Ferrari ultimately got more power on the straight?
I reckon it will have, to be fair. Yeah, I think it's going to have more power on the straight. Coming through the final corner, then it is still O'Reilly trailing that of Hupert at the moment. Hupert's done great bits as O'Reilly very close to the outside pit wall. Down the start straight they come. They keep gapping Self just a little bit in the background. They're not really fighting hard, are they, these two at the moment? It's not a massive fight that's costing these two time. It's just O'Reilly kind of playing follow the leader. Ledger's lost time to overtake her then, and Dan Davis still right up the rear wing of Mike Matthews in this race.
Yeah, can't do nothing about Mike on the straight. The Porsche just hasn't got enough power to pull up and pass that Ferrari. The pit stops are going to start things off. That's when things are going to change around here when we get into the pit stop window. Rob Smith in the chat saying he had real issues getting the power down in the Mustang last night. Track so slippery. Well, it has finally gone to optimum. That's something.
Yeah, and it has got up to 11 degrees as well halfway through this race nearly, and we're about 7:30 in the morning here. We go back to a normal start time of midday for the on-track race time next week at Bathurst. Sorry, Kelly.
Dan done it again, exactly the same place. Comes out that corner onto the back straight and just back end all over the place. Like he just gets it up onto the white line or onto the grass. Exactly the same place for Dan.
Yeah, you can tell that 'cause he's lost a little bit of time to Mike Matthews through this middle sector. Still, O'Reilly is hassling the back of that Ford Mustang out front, and O'Reilly must be wondering what he's got to do to get ahead of this Ford Mustang of Hooper. Then pit window will open in 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, unless he's waiting for the pits, unless he's biding his time. I mean, he's in a brilliant position, you know. We've had no pit stops yet, so no one's going to jump up and nab him in the pit stops. He's in a perfect position at the moment. Patience might be the name of the game tonight.
It might be. We'll have to wait. We'll look at Overtaker race 1. He was patient. Didn't really put too much pressure on Ben when Ben was second place, and Overtaker come away with a race win. So it all goes to show that patience can win you a race. But O'Reilly at the minute is certainly putting pressure. And fair play to Hooper here, because he has not put a foot wrong with this amount of pressure. O'Reilly's not been out less than half a second in the last 4 laps at least. So well done to the pair of these two.
Absolutely. It's close racing, and I'd say good racing from both of them. None of them have been Larry, although O'Reilly gets a bit of a wiggle, same place that Dan's been struggling, a little bit of struggle on power. But O'Reilly's just keeps showing the nose and saying, look, I'm here. You know, I can see down the
that's a great run. Oh, Hooper there was very slow through the left-hand corner. O'Reilly got a run nearly. He had to take to the grass before entering the first right-hander of the trio of S's. And O'Reilly there, well, definitely showing the nose now, Kelly, because he had an almighty look there as Hooper was slow through that corner. And is that maybe a position where O'Reilly could think about making the overtake, where Hooper may be struggling?
Absolutely. I mean, is this Kieran's... is this his strategy? You know, stay as close as he can. Don't do anything stupid. Wait for Hooper to make the mistake.
Possibly so, as we're going to drop back down to Patrick Ledger at the moment. He's got the other SimPlay racing driver of Mike Matthews now within half a second. So Mike's now re-dropped Dan. He's reopened that gap. Ledger's been dropped by Overtaker. That gap's now 2 seconds, and that's put Mike Matthews back onto the back of him. But Overtaker's lost time to Sylph, so I don't think this is Overtaker pulling away from Ledger as Ledger falling back to Mike.
Yeah, could be. I'm going to have another look at the lap times to see where these guys are lap times. See, last lap for Hooper was a 36, 36.2, a 35.8 before that, and we know that Kieran's within like half a second. I'm interested to know where Stealth is on this. If he's gaining on them, because he was doing the some crack. Yeah, see, 35.2 on lap 13, 35.9. So a bit of a slow lap for him on the last one, but he's half a second or so quicker than the leaders. In a minute or two, he's going to be looking at gaining on these guys.
He is indeed. Now, sorry to butt in, Kelly, but Gary Leach, you just noticed, has pulled 1.3 seconds over Jamal Clouden. Now, Jamal was in front of Gary by about a second, so not sure what's happened there to Jamal, but he's under pressure now from Matt Wright in that Nissan car at the moment, so he's got a lot to do. Good evening to Craig Tordock in the chat. Who won the first race? That went the way of Overtaker. As sorry, Jamal Clouden there, very, very wide. That's going to allow Matt Wright to try and tuck up underneath, but he's not close enough at the moment. Viper's got O'Brien right behind him at the moment. Tough for him to do there, and O'Reilly's back within 0.2 of a second as they head in towards turn 1. Mike's within half a second of Ledger. Ledger's brought that gap back down to Overtaker because it did creep over 2 seconds, and again, look, Overtaker's now 6.6 behind Sylph, so Ledger at the moment is really sort of inconsistent. One lap he's right with Overtaker, if not a bit quicker. The next lap he's on the pace with Mike, if not a bit slower.
Absolutely. And Craig, why are you not with us tonight? Do we know why Craig can make it tonight?
Not sure why he's not here tonight. I think he's at work or he's away or something. I'm not quite sure.
Interested to know if you want to tell us. That would be lovely. We've missed you.
We have, to be fair. But great fight in this midfield here. 9th and 10th of Clouden and Matt Wright. Fraser O'Brien on the back of that of Viper still. And Mike Matthews. So all the Ferraris are in a bit of a fight at the moment, aren't they? They're all having a good little squabble. Pit window's open. This is going to be interesting now. Does O'Reilly make that call before Hupert, or is Hupert going to try and do the undercut and gap O'Reilly a little bit? The question is, though, I suppose, is what will O'Reilly's pace be in clear air?
Well, they can both make the decision now. As it happens, the leaders will be the first ones to get here. And do they dive for the pits?
Nope.
No, they don't. Neither of them decides to go for the pits. But Hupert was a little bit deep into that penultimate corner, and that's a tricky one as well, Matt. Really easy to end up on the grass there. Really easy.
It is indeed.
So, O'Reilly's got... I say he's got a bit of a run. I don't think he has. He's just following him across the track. O'Reilly looks to the outside. Hupert comes across to take his line. Perfectly normal into the braking zone. And away we go. Did anyone dive in the pits? Yes,
Mike Matthews. Ledger. Matt Wright has just dived in as well. I'm very surprised, Kelly. Ben Rook's just dived in. Fraser O'Brien's also going to dive in. Dan Davis didn't pit. Now, with how much pace he's losing, I'm very surprised he's not gone in to maybe repair that damage and give himself as long as he possibly can to win that race. There we go. Tordock's in Valencia drinking lots of Spanish beer, which isn't as good as German beer.
Well, I don't drink beer. I drink cider, but have one for us.
Yeah, indeed, sure thing. And don't forget, while you're out there in Spain, in the bar in Valencia, get everybody to like and subscribe. Ready to help the channel as we're watching O'Reilly down the back straight. Have a look. He got on the marbles a little bit there, Kelly. So O'Reilly now just starting to push them limits a little bit more and running the risks of dropping a couple of wheels onto the marbles, and he gets a slide mid-S's. That's what's going to happen when you put a wheel on the marbles.
Yes, indeed. I think you might be coming to the end of the life on those tyres.
Hello.
What we got?
Timing screen does not deceive me. Mike Matthews has jumped Patrick Ledger in the pit lane.
Let's have a look. Hard to tell at the moment, but what are we? Mike Matthews is number 11.
Yeah.
He's in front. He's in front of him.
So there we go. So, that could be huge for this race in terms of that battle with Overtaker. Let's not forget, Ledger and Mike would have been about 1.3, 1.4 seconds behind Overtaker. We know the amount Overtaker jumped Ben in the pits last time around, so that could be huge this time as Overtaker now decides to box, and that shows how long a pit window this is. Mike and Ledger are at turn 3. Overtaker's just come into the pit lane.
Yes, indeed, and Mike making the best out of that one, and got a second or so on Ledger, and great stop from Mike. Was that a case of him hitting his marks, or did Ledger do some damage and repair
possibly.
that? Did they change tyres? They don't have to change tyres, do they?
No, they don't have to change tyres. They just have to add at least 1 litre of fuel. It will cost you 25 seconds. It will cost everybody 25 seconds. A tyre change will obviously add an extra 5 seconds onto that. And remember, if you do change tyres around here, it is a 79-second loss. It's 83% of your lap. That is 74 seconds for just your bog standard pit stop, which we think is about 81 to 80 seconds worth of loss in the pits. But at the moment, Overtaker is now away as Mike has just gone through sector 2. So this could be close. Mike has gapped Ledger a pretty handsome margin here.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And is Ledger a little bit nervous on those tyres? Do they need to come up to pressure for him? We don't know. All these things could be a case. No, Dan not in the pits either.
I'm very surprised.
Yeah, maybe he's living with that damage. Of course, you make that choice. That damage may cost you another 10,
here we go. Kelly,
seconds.
sorry, this is going to be close. Overtakes off the limiter. Mike's breaking into turn 1. They're level at the minute. Mike comes through turn 1 now. Overtaker is out of the pit lane ahead of Mike Matthews. The question now is going to be, is what will Mike and Overtaker do? Did Overtaker take tyres? I don't think, whatever they've done, they've had the same pit stop, because that gap looks roughly the same as what it was before.
Yes, indeed. So they've probably had a very equal kind of pit stop. Yes, they may have opted not to change tyres. Yeah, depends what you like on your tyres, doesn't it?
100% it does.
I could do an hour race on one set of tyres, not a problem.
Yeah. So O'Reilly at the moment, closest fight on track. He's got on the grass a little bit, manages to keep his foot in. He's still right there behind Hooper. This is brilliant driving from the top two, and it's really a poster for, you know, how to keep it clean and not win the race in the first 5 minutes, but how to race a race and build it at the end. Because I tell you what, whoever comes out winner in terms of these two, what an epic battle it's been for the last, I'd say 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's got. It reminds me of Gary Leach, Dan Davis, Silverstone Project Cars.
Yeah.
With Little Leach in there as well, and Biggs. If you want to go back and see a classic race, that's one to go back and watch. But yes, it is a testament. Oh, O'Reilly's gone into pits. I thought he'd gone wide for a minute. O'Reilly's gone into pits, so he's the first one to blink of these two. But you're right. If we had to do an informational video about how to race properly, these guys would certainly be in it. Selth has made up a little bit of ground of being a little bit more aggressive on the pit lane attack as they hit the limiter. Stealth has certainly made some ground up.
He has indeed. Overtaker's got Mike within 9/10 of a within just under a second, should I say. So we'll keep our eyes on this at the minute. Closest fight now on the circuit. So O'Reilly's gone for that undercut. Dan still hasn't pitted. I am flabbergasted that Dan hasn't pitted. I really am.
Yeah. Well, again, does he want to take? You know, is he living with that living with that damage? Is the cost of putting that damage right worse than living with it? And just taking a pointsy result. Yeah,
only he will know, as Overtaker just pulls a bit from Mike in that first sector. Only a couple of hundredths between him and Mike at the moment. So far, so good as we enter the last 28 minutes of this race.
O'Reilly's away.
O'Reilly is away.
Yeah.
So let's keep our eyes on if Hooper decides to pit. Oh, is he?
Silth is going to jump him. He's in front of him on pit lane.
There we go then. So Silth has got ahead of Kieran O'Reilly. Mike Matthews just lost out a little bit to Overtaker. Yeah, loses out another 100th.
Has Silth opted to not change tyres and O'Reilly has, or was he just better on his marks and so on and so forth? As I said, some people are better on tyres than others. As I said, I could do an hour race. I could go home on that set of tyres as well and drive home from Indianapolis to Cornwall. That's how what I could do on the tyres, but then that's probably because I don't drive hard enough.
Yeah, there we go. So Patrick Ledger coming down the straight, watching Overtaker with Mike Matthews, and the two leaders come out. So Silth has jumped out of Kieran O'Reilly. Yeah. So O'Reilly's got work to do to get past the other Ford Mustang, and now Dan Davis and Hooper both come into the pit lane. Two of the last four to going to the pits. There's still time for these drivers to pit. Overtaker and Mike pretty matching there. Mike gained 1,000th of a second in that final sector, so pretty equal through there between the pair of them. Now, is this Mustang going to grow for Overtaker? Because the opening stages of this race, it didn't look great in his hands.
No, it didn't. Yeah, a question we'll have answered very shortly. Kieran O'Reilly must be spitting bricks. He's been 4/10 off the lead for like most of this race, and now he's going to probably have two to deal with instead of one.
Well, let's wait and see as Hoopert's still in that pit lane. Mike's now got the gap down to 0.8 of a second. We gained 0.2 in that first sector. Hoopert is away as O'Reilly and Silf come round the oval part before coming back into the final couple of corners. What's the gap going to be between Overtaker and Mike second sector? This is the closest fight on circuit at the moment. That gap just under 9 tenths now, so Overtaker a bit of a better middle sector. Let's go now on the board. Silf, who's fastest lap of the race. Hoopert's still not out the pit lane yet. Has Silf pulled a blinder? He's not. Has Silf pulled a blinder and jumped both of these cars. What a jump that would be. Can Dan jump Ledger? That's going to be the question. Here comes this of Silf to the outside. I don't think he's going to jump Hoopert. I think Hoopert's out just before. You don't have to take as tight a turn one as the cars on circuit, but at the minute Hoopert leads from Silf. The question is for them two Mustangs, can they keep pulling away as Mike takes another 10th out of that of Overtaker in the final sector. So Mike over the last lap took a couple of tenths out of Overtaker and is starting to get a little bit closer. Skunky's back in, still in the pits as he comes through. Michael Harris, only one left to pit. He's got to pit now. He's not going to be able to make another lap as we'll wait for all the timing screens to catch back up, but Mike definitely a little bit closer than 0.7 of a second at the minute.
Yes, indeed. So we said the pit stops would change things around, and they certainly have. It's Mustang 1-2 again, with O'Reilly with it all to do, and a couple of seconds off the guy in front to start with. So Dan Davis came out in 8th behind Ledger, but in front of Clouden,
which is where he was. Gary Leach has been the biggest loser out of all of that because he was ahead of Clouden and Matt Wright. He's now dropped behind them by a couple of seconds, but the closest fight on the track is this of Overtaker and Mike Matthews at the minute. This is looking back from Overtaker's point of view. As you can see, that Ferrari of Mike Matthews really gaining under brake in there. Huge gain on the brakes as we see him coming through to that penultimate corner, and Overtaker just seems to be struggling on the brakes there. That nearly caught Mike Matthews out.
Yes, indeed. Just to remind everyone out there that Overtaker is a pad user, and if you don't know what we mean by that, he uses a handheld controller, the standard PlayStation or whatever he's on control. His PlayStation, PlayStation controller, and obviously has different characteristics to a steering wheel and pedals. But Overtaker's always been really good with a pad. Probably the best guy I know on a pad, but sometimes that can have different characteristics.
It can indeed. Ben Ruckman on the back of Gary Leach, Matt Wright on the back of Jamal Clouden, Silf on the back of Hoopert, and Mike Matthews on the back of Overtaker. No matter which way you look at the minute, there's a fight happening, and if Silf and Hoopert have an incredible fight here, this could allow O'Reilly to come into play. Just looking at Clouden and Matt Wright, that gap's opened up a little bit. Ben Ruck's lost out a bit to Gary through that first couple of corners. So back to Overtaker and then that of Mike Matthews at the minute. 0.4 of a second is that gap. And this is the interesting one at the moment for me, is Overtaker just hasn't looked as quick or comfortable in this second race as what he did race one.
No, indeed, and absolutely. He seems to be struggling with pace this time round. I can't say he looked as comfortable as he normally looks in race one, to be fair, although he had a great result. I still don't think he looked as comfortable in that race, to be fair.
So keep our eyes on what Overtaker and everybody can do at the moment then as they come through towards the start line. Again, Overtaker 0.4 ahead of Mike Matthews, but it's 0.4 out front, if not a little bit closer between the top two. O'Reilly must be watching on, waiting for this to happen. Matt Wright's within 0.7 of Jamal. Ben's within 0.2 of Gary, but Gary's gone deep, and Ben Ruck is going to, not need a second invitation to get past there. Silf and Hoopert now having a fight. Mike and Overtaker now having a fight. Ben Ruck's got past Gary. He's going to try and head after Matt Wright and Jamal Clouden. And Mike Matthews at the moment, he's got Overtaker right in front of him. And it's safe to say that Mike's looking better on the brakes, more confident on the brakes than Overtaker.
Yes, he's certainly looking more comfortable, that's for certain, sure. Just quickly, because I think things...
Michael Harris, sorry, Kelly, drive-through penalty for track limits.
Oh dear. I think things are going to hot up towards the end stages of this race, so just before we get into that, let me tell you all about a really special event that's coming at the end of the season. 24 hours of the Nordschleife. We're at SimPlay are doing 24-hour endurance race for cancer charity, and you can get involved. Matt will give you the finer details in just a moment. It's May the 3rd. No, May the 3rd. 24-hour race. If you want to get involved on any level, we would welcome you along. As I said, we're doing it for cancer charity, cancer research, or who are we this time? Stand Up for Cancer.
I'm not sure. I think it's cancer research. I think Paul Williams went with cancer research.
Yeah, most probably cancer research. We've done this before in the past. Oh, and still nearly in the back of Hooper there into turn 1. Oh, nearly crashed into the back of him, Matt.
Yeah, and these two fighting is just going to help O'Reilly, Kelly.
Absolutely, he's going to bring him back into play. So just quickly before this hots up, 3rd of May, check it out on the Discord. You'll hear all about it. You can get involved in any way you want by being a driver, being a commentator, being a spectator, being a donator, whichever you want. But it's coming soon, end of the season, 3rd of May. Look out for it. It's going to be great.
It is going to be great. Gary Leach has got Sky Schundelmeyer on the back of him. You'd imagine that Lexus power should be able to pull him along and away from that of Sky Schundelmeyer of Gary Leach. But let's wait and see what happens. Sylph now dropping back further to O'Reilly through the sector times and what he was just a moment ago. Mike Matthews now 8/10 off the back of Overtaker. And is Mike just maybe getting the Paul runs out the corner? He's better on the brakes, but just not able to get out the corner as well as Michael Harris now comes in for his drive-through.
Yes, indeed, it might be the case. I think Mike's hit a bit of a wall, really. He comes up behind him, but hasn't got any more to pass him. I don't think the race is done at the front, though.
No, I don't think the race is done at the front. It's 1.1 seconds, and it's a second back to O'Reilly. Top three having a great scrap here. I'm watching the Gary Leach, Guy Schundelmeyer and Fraser O'Brien fight at the minute, down for 11th, 12th and 13th place between the three of them, as Darren Yeo and Viper gain an extra place due to Harris's drive-through penalty. And Gary comes through down the bottom end of the circuit. Nice and easy for Gary there. O'Reilly's under a second to Sylph, so he's put himself back in the shop window a little bit. Mike's got to try and get closer to Overtaker. That's now 9/10 of a second, so just losing out a little bit there is Mike. Drive-through cleared for O'Reilly, so he's done that.
Yes, indeed. I think it might be a case of Stealth having to braked heavily into turn 1, gave him a slow lap, which possibly gave O'Reilly bring the gap down a little bit, but they're all within a second of each other. With 20 minutes to go, this isn't done. This isn't done yet. It's not done,
and it's not done for Sky Schundelmeyer. He's going to go around the outside of Gary Leach at the final corner. That's a lovely move from the Porsche driver. Take your hat off and give him a bow, because he normally understeer wide towards the wall. Now that Lexus power is going to come back down the inside of the Porsche on the start straight here, and Gary Leach into turn 1 early on the brakes, going to meet the apex. Sky should have the inside line for 2. This is great fighting between two former teammates. O'Brien might now fancy a look. He does indeed. Sky gets the move done. Gary is now going to be under pressure from O'Brien, but nothing comes of that one at the moment, and Gary Leach losing out to Schundelmeyer there, and Sylph now within 7/10 of a second of Hooper, and back up to a second from O'Reilly. Also Mike's now a second over Overtaker.
Yeah, Mike just dropped back a little bit now from Overtaker for whatever reason, but yeah, still coming back at Hooper for this race win. Yeah, so those still close at the front from the top 3, excuse me.
Massively close at the front between the top 3. So your running order is Hooper from Sylph, then it's O'Reilly, then it's Overtaker and Mike Matthews from Patrick Ledger, Dan Davis, then it's Jamal Cloudham with Matt Wright just dropping off the back of him. Ben Rook is 10th with Schundelmeyer now up to 11th. Gary Wright's now lost out to O'Brien's, that's 12th and 13th. Skunky 14th, Viper 15th from Darren Yeo, Michael Harris and Richard Beasley, who had that huge damage at the start. Testament for him to keep going in this race, because he is now 3 laps down on the leader. Also, Dan's now within a second of Ledger, so Dan's trying to mount an attack, but the two leaders 6/10 of a second.
Yeah, this is where the scrap is, or the closest scrap at the moment. But Gary Leach, O'Brien is quite close, but at the front, this is where the race is. I'm on board with Kieran O'Reilly at the moment. Watching brief just a second or so back from the two Mustangs as they go at it towards the final end of this race.
Yeah, indeed. So at the moment, interesting to see that the Mustangs don't look as confident through the S's as the Honda.
No, I think where the Mustangs are certainly benefiting is on the straights, and where you would thought in the real world that the Mustangs would be good, you wouldn't think that the Mustang would corner. You wouldn't think the Mustang would be quite this good a car in the real world. I don't actually know what they like, or if they even use one.
Pretty good. Yeah, no,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, it was brand new. It was brand new to the game just before last season, or the season before, shall I say? And it just won the Daytona 24-hour in the GT3 category, and I think it won. I think it won the GT category at Le Mans last year.
Yeah. It's a big car, American cars, and was that Stealth having a go?
He had a look, he definitely had a look.
Yeah.
Mike's back within 6/10, by the way, of Overtaker. Dan's got Ledger going on the defensive in the background as well. It's all down the start straight, and this is going to... Dan needs his slipstream, really. It is all going to happen at the end, and I'll tell you what, one or two Cummins together, and this could really shake up this result.
Absolutely. As I said, Mike coming back now at Overtaker, Dan coming back at Ledger. Stealth is still it was just under half a second on Hooper, so it's all going to happen towards the end of this race. Still positions to be had, all the points count. You can lose a championship on 1 point, you can lose a championship on a count back. I've been there.
You have been there indeed, as Hooper leads from Sylph into the Asses again. O'Reilly just dropping off the back of these two a little bit. Speaking of close, Dan Davis now right up under the rear wing of the Lamborghini. Doesn't drop away along the grass this time in his normal spot. Down the back straight Dan comes. He's not going to have a look from that far back, but he might be into the S's, looking to get a good run coming onto the back part of the oval. As Ledger there, left, right, that Porsche have a better change of direction than the Lamborghini, and you just see Dan look, Ledger slow out the corner. You saw that Dan was trying to grip up and tuck underneath. Ledger was slow out the corner. I'm wondering if Dan changed tyres. Doesn't look like he's repaired the damage. It's still on that left-hand the left-hand side of his car, but Dan just seems to have better grip than the Lamborghini at the moment, and Dan can't have the move happen yet.
No, I wasn't watching that one, unfortunately. I'm still watching the leaders as Stealth is within 3/10 down the main straight, but still can't make it happen into turn one. Kieran O'Reilly within just over a second behind, but watching brief if it all goes wrong. Dan now in the slip of Ledger as they come down into turn one. But Ledger's got the inside. Dan's got to go around all the way around the outside. Thinks better of it. I think
Dan's got far superior grip here than Ledger at the minute, Kelly. Also, I will say that Overtaker now under immense pressure from Mike Mathews at the moment. So Mike putting Overtaker under pressure. Sill's just dropped a tenth or so back from Hoopert at this moment in time. And it's all about getting that run out the corner to get alongside the opposing driver in this race. And so far, Mike can't get the run on Overtaker. Dan can't get the run on Ledger. Now Mike might have an opportunity in that slipstream. Down the back straight they come. Dan also in the background. Keep your eyes out for that as Overtaker comes into the left-hander through the bottom end of the circuit. And again, look, you're not going to overtake at the S's. What about Dan? Not close enough to that a Ledger. What about down the order? Gary Leach has now lost out to Skunky. See Gary Leach struggling in that Lexus this season. Sylph and Hoopert still close together, but O'Reilly's now within a second as well. And this is all happening, Kelly, into the last 15 minutes.
Oh, it would. Battles are like buses. You wait all day for one, and then 3 or 4 come along. And we certainly got that, indeed. And as I say, a few guys looking very racy. And Dan is all over the back of Ledger like a cheap suit as they come into the penultimate corner once again to go on to the that long final straight. But I don't think Dan's got the power in a straight line. It seems to have it in the corners, which is going to be, I reckon, as Ledger goes defensive right across the track to defend. One move back to where he started. Nothing wrong with that at all.
But crucially, cannot move again now. If Dan was to have a look, Ledger cannot make that move. Overtaker's doing the same as Ledger. He's making that initial defensive, then coming back to the racing line. That is well within the letter of the law. It's that third movement you make that where the trouble starts to lie. Sylph has dropped off the back of Hooper, which has allowed O'Reilly to get closer. Mike still within half a second. Dan within 4/10. And this is all three fights between these three different groups in this track at the moment.
Absolutely, and that one move is fine, and move back, as you say, the third move, and neither you or me has ever been guilty of a third move, have we, Matt?
Never in our lives. As you see, Ledger. Interesting that Ledger doesn't feel the need to, and I've seen this with Overtaker as well. They don't feel the need to defend as hard or early on the back straight.
Well, there's something to be said about defending early and over-defending. When defending, you still want to be looking forward and going forward. You still want to be as fast as you can. When you start over-defending, defending early, that's when you start putting yourself into trouble.
It is indeed. Now the three leaders all separated by 0.8 and 0.9 of a second. Not close enough coming through the final corner and down towards turn one. What is Mike Mathews to overtake? That gap's just over 0.7, so he's not really close enough to have a look on the back of Overtaker. Overtaker doesn't feel the need to go defensive this time around. Mike not close enough behind. Ledger, though, does go defensive on that of Dan Davis. And I don't think Ledger needs to do this. I think he's actually scrubbing more speed going across the circuit than just keeping that Lamborghini flat in a straight line. I think he'd pull away a little bit more from Dan if he did that. But he's scrubbing that speed, Kelly, coming across the track. O'Brien's within a second of Sky Sundermeyer. Who's that? That is Michael Harris, who's now gone a lap down. He's come into the pit lane, so something's gone wrong for Harris.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Ledger is unnecessarily moving across the track, but hey, it looks dramatic, and makes our job better when it looks dramatic.
Does indeed. So, these two are the closest fight on the circuit, is Ledger and Dan Davis at the moment. What a night it has been. Remember, if you like what you see here, hit that bell to be notified, the subscribe button if you are new, and hit the bell to be and hit that thumbs up button if you like what you see. Next week coming up, GT4s on Tuesday night. Dan Davis back in the box for their first 4 rounds 7 and 8 at Bathurst. Lexi should hopefully be back in the box for the Pro-Ams for the first time this season, round 7 and 8 on the Wednesday night, and then Thursday night me and Kelly will be back in your box. Sweet Sticky back for the Dream Team as well. We'll be back in the box for round 7 and 8 at Mount Panorama Bathurst. Mike is right under that rear wing of Overtaker at the moment. Taker slow through the penultimate corner, and this is Mike Mathews. He's as close as he's been all night, Kelly. Comes through the final corner, right in the slipstream of the Mustang. Overtaker's already gone early defensive here. Now he comes back across, so that's really his 2 manoeuvres made, you'd say. Is he going to look to make that third? Mike pulls out, shows the nose, not close enough, just showing how strong that Mustang is in a straight line. Just behind them, Patrick Ledger, not gone as early defensive from Dan. He must have the stream on. He defends a little later now. Dan comes right back across, and Dan just cannot find a way through. That Porsche does not have the legs in a straight line.
Yeah, it's Dan closes up into 2. But I was saying it's all just a little bit of showboating at the moment, trying to put your opponent off, because neither of them was ever close enough. But that's what you do in motor racing. You try to, a bit like a game of chess when things are like this. You try to outsmart your opponent, trying to trick them into a mistake, trying to make them do something that you want them to do and they don't want to do. And this is what it's all about.
We're into that final 10 minutes, and at the minute, Dan is right up the rear wing of Patrick Ledger. Now the leaders are all within a second and a half from first to third. Sylph fastest lap of the race. Dan pulls out now to have a look, but doesn't make it stick, and he's really now just starting to show that nose to Patrick Ledger, isn't he? He's just starting to have a go here and there, just to try and make himself a little nuisance. Mike needs to be a lot closer to Overtaker coming through this section of the track to get that running towards turn 1. They both get the corner nice. Mike a bit better than Taker, looked a little deep, did Overtaker. Now through this tricky right hand bend, and I think that's where Overtaker's outsmarting Mike Mathews at the minute. He's one chess move ahead, and Mike's losing all momentum at the penultimate corner.
I agree, and the last time round Mike seemed to go wide out of the last corner, seemed to be unbalanced slightly and couldn't get the power down probably as fast as he would like. On the other hand, Dan is putting his Porsche in all the right places. He just hasn't got enough. It just isn't enough. The power.
Ledger's not defending as hard this time around, and Dan now can't show him the nose. Dan has a little wiggle there under the braking a little bit, manages to keep it all together and manages to not make contact with Ledger. This is a great race so far. Hoopert's out front though. They're about to lap what looks to be Darren Yo. Benny in the chat, evening to my favourite bunch of commentators. Hope we're both doing great, thanks. Great this fine night. Looking forward to Bathurst next week, Mr. Duffin, or what? Not looking forward to racing it. I'm looking forward to commentating it though. With my old pal Kelly.
Yeah, Bathurst, we were talking about this off track. We both said, even though this isn't real, this isn't the real world, for newsflash for people who believe it is, it still scares me, Bathurst. And you said the same, Matt. It is a real challenge, Bathurst, but always a pleasure to watch. So looking forward to that next week.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to bring us, and also it also always seems to be the cleaner of the races at SimPlay Motorsport. I think drivers seem to engage their brain and realise, hang on a minute, we're on the mountain. This is going to be a little tight. Gaps out front, still as close as ever. We've also now got Fraser O'Brien attacking the back of Sky Schundelmeyer.
Oh, Dan's got a run this time, has he?
Vipers attacking the back of Leach. Ledger goes deep though. Dan up and under. That could be the undercut. Ledger's got the inside line for the right, for the left-hander. Dan's trying to come back underneath again. He's now going to be on the outside line for the final corner. He tucks back underneath Patrick Ledger. This is so close between the two yellow cars. Dan Davis now to the outside. He's not going to have the speed in a straight line, and Ledger tries to close the door on him right at the pit wall, and that was close for Dan Davis being put in it and being overtaking Patrick Ledger. And Ledger just there as Dan goes right around the outside. He's outbraked himself though. Ledger comes back in front.
Oh, another week and another race where Dan seems to be wringing the neck of that Porsche to try and get it out. He tried setting that up 3 corners back where he took the alternative line to duck in and under Ledger, but Ledger kind of did a bit of a Plato on the penultimate corner. Nothing naughty, but just held Dan up on the apex a little bit. Dan again closed the door halfway down the straight, which I thought was just on the limit, but some may say that I'm biased, so I can't say too much, you know, but great racing from these two.
Great racing from these two, great racing from Mike and Overtaker, and great racing from the top 3, as well as the fact that we're going to go back to Sky Schundelmeyer. He's got Fraser O'Brien within half a second. There is battles everywhere you look. What's happened, Kelly?
Sorry. O'Reilly is right on the back of the lead too. I mean, right on the back of them as they come down the main straight. I don't know if they struggle getting through the traffic or whatever, but O'Reilly is now within 3 tenths on Stealth, and they are all close going into the first corner as Stealth has a look round the outside. Hooper defends the inside. O'Reilly with the watching brief, and he's very close. Has to step on the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, he did just a little bit there as Silver's coming back through. Mike's also very, very close to the back of Overtaker. Overtaker, though, just got that Mustang grunt that's just going to pull him away from Mike Matthews just a little bit. Mike needs to be even closer than that, if not level with Overtaker coming out the final corner. Sorry, Kelly.
Hooper goes wide. Yeah, sorry, Hooper gone wide. And now Stealth's gone wide. O'Reilly's going up the inside as they come out on the back straight, but still got the inside line as they pull out onto that back straight, I believe.
Yeah.
And yes, it is. And but O'Reilly looks like he's got Stealth done, you know.
Yeah, I think he has, because Stealth had to take that tighter line through the corner to give O'Reilly that room and respect. That's compromised his run out the corner. O'Reilly's moved back into second place. Mike's still not close enough to Overtaker. Patrick Ledger's still got Dan just behind him, but by enough. Fraser O'Brien is right on the back of Sky Schundelmeyer. There's 4 battles. There's under 5 minutes left. O'Brien has a look and has to again slam on the anchors there, but that's put a bit of daylight for Hooper with O'Reilly now coming between himself and Silth. Mike Matthews needs to get closer to Overtaker through this section of circuit if he's to get anything done here.
It sounds like you're telling him, not commenting. I'm like, Mike, you need to get closer.
Well, we're watching on, and you know we can only do so much. But at the end of the day, Overtaker's done everything inch perfect. You said it's a game of chess. Taker has played a masterclass. Mike has fallen short a little bit, and he's not been close enough where he needs to be close enough. I think it's the same for Dan. When he's been close enough, Ledger has pulled a blinder, parking it on the apex and forcing Dan to get a horrible run out the corner.
Absolutely, and as I said, great racing from these guys tonight. Not too much silliness, or no silliness to be fair. Nothing that I've witnessed, but some cracking racing. And O'Reilly, what a game of patience tonight from him.
Yeah, great game of patience as well. Fraser O'Brien is the closest man now to the back of another car, and that is Sky Schundelmeyer. Testament to Sky. Good race 1 again, and a solid race 2 in a grid that's getting faster and faster. Sky Schundelmeyer still showing that he can stick it around that top 10 area, so good for him in this one. Kind of another week where Jamal Clouden's not had any luck. Race 1 he got a drive through of his own accord speeding in the pit lane, and we've kind of not seen much of him in this second race, have we? But Fraser O'Brien clipped the pit wall there. That's put him off the back of that of Sky Schundelmeyer. O'Reilly now is just under 7 tenths behind. Mike's now back towards a second to Overtaker. Dan's within 4 tenths. Has a bit of a slide coming out the corner. Dan Davis now really close to Ledger. He knows he's got to hurry up and get a move on with this. Ledger now starts to defend down the back straight. Dan thinks of a send up the inside. That's a desperate move, I'd say, from Dan.
Yeah.
You don't see Dan. I tell you what, Kelly, you don't see Dan make them kind of moves, and he's paid the price for it.
day late and a dollar short, that one. Did he have much to lose? He had a big gap back to Clouden. If he did spin it, which he did, you know, he's got a bit of time on his hands, but he's lost time to Legend now. Yeah, a day late and a dollar short, that one, I think.
Dan, this season we've seen him make more of his own mistakes than I think we have in the however many seasons Dan has raced here, 300 odd race starts. But yet in these first 6 races, I've seen Dan make more mistakes himself than anything else that I can ever remember.
I think the competition level has gone up another notch this season.
Yeah.
And I think Dan, by choosing this Porsche, and you know his choice, he wanted to bring the Porsche to the front. I think he's having to wring the neck of it. I think he's out driving the car. Do you know what I mean? I think he's doing an Alonso with it and getting more out of it than
do you know what I want to say to that as well, Kelly? I want to chuck O'Reilly in that, Ricks, because I think he's wringing the neck out of this Honda. I just think at the minute O'Reilly has a bit more in the Honda than what Dan has in the Porsche, because both cars underpowered. You know, you don't see a lot of them picked. I mean, Matt Wright in the Nissan's another bold choice. But, you know, what we're seeing here is another sort of display of O'Reilly with Dan and Schundelmeyer, to be fair, in his Porsche. And again, you know, there's rumours last season of Lexus being the OP car. Gary's down in 15th. Ford is 100% the OP car, I think, now. It's 1-3-4 yet again.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah, next week we go to Bathurst. Just some comments going on in the chat of Rob Smith saying Bathurst is probably one of the best tracks in the world, and yeah, you know, most people love Bathurst for one reason or another.
It's a love-hate. You either hate it or you love it. Nobody has a meh opinion on the circuit. It's either love or hate. We're on the final lap of the race. What a race O'Reilly and Hupert have had. Silver's come back into this fight. The first half of this race was just between Hupert and O'Reilly. Silver's really came into this battle on his own. Has Hupert done enough, though? What a defensive drive this would be from Hupert if he hangs on to this race win. That would be absolutely magical. Mike's within 6/10 of overtaker. He's got to make something happen this lap, because he's got one chance and one chance only. O'Brien's on the back of Schundelmeyer. This is for the race lead, though. O'Reilly looks really close to Hupert this time around. We've seen that Hupert struggled a little bit through the S's. O'Reilly, as close as he's been in the entire race, breaks a little earlier. Hupert runs a little deep. O'Reilly tries to get some momentum now. Breaks early again into the right. Flick it back for the left. Once again to the right at the end of this little straight. Couple of corners to go. O'Reilly doesn't get the best of runs, and Silsdale going to challenge him. That could go the way of Hupert now for this race win, because it's a couple of corners to go, and it's O'Reilly who's made that mistake. Hupert, though, leading this race. O'Reilly's going to defend it up the inside here. Silf tries to hang it around the outside, can't do so, and I think that is going to be as they finish. But Hupert is going to take a race win, provided he doesn't do anything at this final corner. I think he's going to have it done, Kelly. Hupert to the line is going to win this race. What a drive from him. Fantastic from Hupert. O'Reilly second, Silf third with the fastest lap. Overtaker and Mike going at it. Taker very, very slow. Mike's trying to get a run. This isn't over for P4. Can Mike try and get a momentum out this final corner? I think Overtaker's done just enough to get that P4 from that of Mike Matthews here. It's going to be 5th place for Mike Matthews. Overtaker will take P4. Mike 5th place. Patrick Ledger is going to come across for P6. What a drive for Patrick Ledger there. Good stuff from him. He had the better of Dan Davis, you I'd say. Dan just didn't have his number. Dan down in 7th place. He'll be disappointed with that one, as I'm inputting the results on the wrong tab. Jamal Clouden is going to be in P8.
Yep, and what a race. What a fantastic race. Start thinking about driver of the day, guys. Who would you give your driver of the day to this evening? I'm torn between a couple tonight, but some brilliant racing here at Indianapolis, and real game of patience from Hupert and O'Reilly, and Stilth in there as well. It's some great stuff indeed. Not the best night for a couple of guys. Viper, Gary Leach, Skunky, and Clouden, all those would have wanted for more and could have done more, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Someone just clouted Ben Rook over the line. I don't know if that was intentional or just playing. I don't know. Some great racing. We go to Bathurst next week, one of the craziest tracks ever. and it always brings up a good race. So we look forward to that next week. So as I say, start looking for your driver of the day, and yeah, Mike Matthews already in the chat. Look, what a race, and yeah, it certainly was. Yeah, and Rob Smith, well done, pros. Yeah, it was a good pro night tonight. That's certainly for sure. Well done, Hooper O'Reilly, and Stealth, great racing. That's from Benny. Thank you, Benny. And Rob Smith, Hooper for his driver of the day. And yeah. Whew, Matt,
yeah,
we need to
exactly.
breathe.
We do need to breathe. Well, we can have a breather. We're going to jump into the Discord call now, into the Discord party chat now, and that will then provide us.
How to do that.
Same way as you do the parties, but you go down to the little Discord icon and press on SimPlay. We'll be back in just a couple of seconds' time, where we can then hear from the drivers who are on the podium. Back in a second.
Oh, hang on. Have you gone already?
So we are here in the Discord call then for the driver, for the, I suppose, for the podium celebration in this one, and we're going to see what will be said by our compatriots in a moment. Kelly is back in the party. Kelly, really, what a night of racing. We spoke early on about lap one, race one being carnage yet again, but race two demonstrated how good these guys can be. Yeah, it would have been carnage indeed. Then we are just awaiting to see if anybody will join us in the commentary box. Kelly, your driver of the day? Yeah, I think that's fair play. I'm going to go... Oh, tricky this. I think Overtaker's had a solid night. Ben, honourable shout. Dan, good shout from him. Patrick Ledger. I am going to have to go the way of Hooper, winning a podium in race one. I think O'Reilly's race one, if that was better, I think he could have been in for a shout.
From.
There we go. I think I've sorted the issue now. There we go,
okay.
Phil. So I've got the issue sorted now. So, yeah, I believe we're joined by Dan Davis in the box and Overtaker. So, first of all, we'll speak with Dan Davis. Dan, two different races, really, for yourself. Race one, great podium, good strategy in the pits and a good call there. Race two, sort of had your own moment and was on the back foot since then.
Yeah. An interesting night. I don't know really how to phrase it up. I mean, race one was just luck. That was just pure luck. I got lucky. I managed to make my way through the order and didn't get hit. So that was just blind luck and just great strategy. Ben let me through, so we kind of, gave each other some respect from Spa and here now. So, and then race two, I mean, I was on the back of Overtaker, and I think I had the pace to go with O'Reilly and the rest of them, but I just got stuck behind that Mustang. It's just ridiculous in a straight line and just making silly errors, and I went blind actually halfway through the race. My glasses fogged up in one eye lens, so I couldn't actually see in one eye. So, yeah, I went wide, hit the wall, and gave myself 7 seconds worth of damage. It was just, I don't know, just a night to think. I thought I was doing well, but then I'm pushing too hard to catch these boys, and yeah.
That was going to be my question, Dan. You look like you're wringing the neck of this Porsche every round. Is that the case?
I don't think it's necessarily the Porsche. I think it's more myself. I think because I know in practice I've done those lap times, I was able to go with them. I was pushing myself so hard when I was in day and just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. And as soon as you slide the Porsche too much, it just snaps on you. And it's not like other cars where you can slide and kind of power out of it and it'll be fine. This, once it slides, it's just, you just got to try and catch it and try and lose as little time as possible. But I'm just trying too hard. Possibly the Porsche was a bad choice. Maybe the Lexus, I might have had more an opportunity, especially in the straight line. But like I said, the straights saved overtaken massively. If the straight was shorter, I might have had him. I might have not. I don't know. But either way, he did a good job. He kept me behind. And yeah, just me being stupid tonight, I think.
Patrick Ledger did well as well in race 2, Dan, didn't he? He was a man who fought you hard and at one stage kind of Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello'd you from Hungary all them years ago. They tried to put you in the pit wall. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, Ledger was good, and obviously I know that Lamborghini very, very well. But he was good. There was one incident where I'm not too sure. I think he moved under braking and I went around, but I'll have to have a look. But other than the rest of it, he put on a great defense. I had the traction, I had the grip. It's just, again, me getting in my own head. So he did everything fine, except for that one little incident. I think he moved under braking, but I'd have to have a look and see. But nonetheless, full respect to him and great job from him. But O'Reilly seems to be the only one who's able to threaten these MSA boys, and I've got no answer in this Porsche at the minute. I genuinely have to think next season that the Porsche idea is going to have to go out the window and possibly look at a Ferrari or a McLaren kind of drive next season. But we'll see. The better circuits are coming later.
You put a move on Ledger towards the end along the back straight. You chinked to the outside and then dived to the inside, just a little bit on the late side. Was that calculated, or was that just spontaneous move that didn't pay off, or were you thinking, if I dive down and I don't quite make it, I've got a little bit of gap behind me? Was that calculated?
I got the idea that Clouden was nowhere near me. I wasn't going to gain on Michael Overtaker. They were too far ahead. It was do or die kind of really. I was kind of Vettel-esque. I was kind of sitting there thinking, dive one way, think I'm going to go there, and then souped up the inside and try and surprise it. He knew I was going outside every time, so I had to do something different, or otherwise he was going to predict everything that I do anyway. So I gave it a go, gave it a shot. No harm done, Yeah, just too little too late, or maybe should have. If I'd sat and waited, it may never have come. If that moment was the only moment, who knows? Who knows what happened? Hindsight's a beautiful thing.
Well, you were running the centre livery for Matt and his new addition to his family, but running the centre livery, and Senna always said, if you don't go for a gap, then why are you doing it, kind of thing. So you had a go.
If you don't go for a gap, why are you doing it? That's probably the best comment ever. Just so Kelly. You've just Kellified a Senna comment there.
Kellified.
Kelly is, I think we're going to have to call that one.
I don't know if I take that as a compliment or not, Mike. We'll get back to that.
I would like to dedicate the second place in the first race to yourself and your new baby boy, Matt. That was for your kid. So I hope that was very Ayrton-esque for him. But I had fun that race. It was good fun. I had fun sending it into turn 1. I thought, why not? Let's have a go around the outside and see what would happen. But yeah, just glad to leave Indianapolis and Spa. Probably one more race that I'm going to dread, and then the rest of the season looks a lot more Porsche friendly.
Well done.
Your friend next week.
That's the one I'm dreading.
Is it really?
It is. Long straights again. This thing is rubbish in a straight line. And at the minute, I don't actually. But I haven't got the confidence up there in this at the minute. I have not got the confidence in it. I will tweak and change the setup as best I can to be absolutely nailed in the mountain. But I think it's going to be another round where I just have to grit my teeth and just hope and pray something comes my way. But Bathurst, I know I was hoping for rain again, but I don't think that's going to happen, but nonetheless, I will tweak the Porsche as best I possibly can, and like you know, guys, I will give it my very best. I always do. So we'll see what happens.
Remember them SimPlay days where it was more wet than dry? Well, we've not had a wet race now for a season and a half nearly. Dan, congratulations on the P2. I believe we can now turn our attention to the Overtaker, who is in the comms box, and a man who just outside the podium race too, but had a great scrap with Mike for a majority of that race, and then a race winner in race 1. And it's been a while, Overtaker, since we've seen you on that top step of the podium. But this Ford Mustang, you know, the more we learn about it as each season goes by, the more that comes out about this Ford Mustang. It seems the car to pick at the moment on ACC, doesn't it? It does seem like the best choice that's out there.
It is a great race car. I've said it many times, but look, that's why we have BOP, right? So last season, no one was talking about Mustang when I was in it, struggling. This season, it gets all the praise, but I think that's down to the MSA guys. Like I've said last week,
well, hey,
they could pick a Porsche, they could pick McLaren, and you would see McLaren 1, 2, 3.
Hey. Dude, you'd say this, but you've won a race, you've got a podium this season, don't knock yourself down. It was a great race. It was the strategy that did it for you, because you was fighting with Ben, I say fighting, he was following Ben, happy to sort of sit behind him, not putting him under too much pressure. The strategy, though, got you in front of him by a second or so, and that meant that you could just open that gap, hunt down after O'Brien, who seemed to have technical problems, but more importantly, keep that gap between you and Dan.
Yeah, race 1, it was lucky, I guess, to get the win with the problems with O'Brien, and yeah, like you said, I could follow, I couldn't really attack him, and I knew I had to do one perfect lap. When he pitted, the strategy worked. That was done, and like you said, race 2 was hard as anything. Both SimPlay guys gave me plenty of trouble. So congrats to Mike to finding this pace. Usually it's other way around. I'm chasing him. This time he was chasing me, but yeah, I could put it in all the right places. Mustang good on straights, so that helped me a lot to defend.
Just talk us through something, Overtaker, because me and Kelly were saying on comms, your car didn't look the same race 1 to race 2. Any changes made between that mid-session break, or was it just, I don't know, the heavier fuel load that seemed to me look like you struggled more in the second race?
Yeah, I struggle a lot with extra fuel and extra kilograms. Like I struggle with the BOP and extra ballast, as well as extra fuel. It kind of works in the same way, right? But I was pretty close on pace race 1 and race 2, I think. It was just that race 1 I wasn't really put under any pressure, and race 2 I was, but I am quite happy with the performance.
That probably answers my question, Yam, to be honest, because as I said, Matt said you look like you're struggling. It looked like you were, again, like Daniel was, where you were kind of trying to get the best you possibly could out of the car, like it was like you were fighting the car quite a lot. But as I say, it sounds like you've answered that question with the extra kilos and so on and so forth. Did you find the car more of a handful tonight, opposed to say Spa or Brands before?
No, you're correct. Yeah, the first couple of laps I was struggling and fighting the car a lot. I had cold tires. I didn't do the warm-up lap like I should have done. I was more focused on tire pressures for the second stint.
Yeah.
Then warm-up tires, and when we were on the grid, my tires were stone cold, dark blue. Right. So I was struggling a lot. Couple of first laps. Managed to keep them behind. But yeah, this track, it's slippery, always been slippery. Yeah. It is what it is for me on the pad. When the track is slippery, I think it's a double whammy for me, because it's hard to countersteer, it's hard to feel the car, and yeah, actually I am extremely happy with these nights of racing.
And so you should be, absolutely.
Well, yeah, especially with my quali lap. I think that saves me a lot.
We go to Bathurst next week, Overtaker a place. In fact, I think that was your last race win. Bathurst race 1 last season, where you chased out. You did down in the pits, if I remember rightly.
Nope.
No, I thought you. No, sorry, you was chasing him down. You didn't quite get the race win. We head back to Bathurst. We know how strong that Mustang can be there. Looking at the balance of performance at the minute, again, looks like the Mustang's topping them charts. So call suits the circuit it should be? What can you do around there?
I can do a lap, but I can do a race every once blue moon, because I'm probably gonna make a mistake, and then when I make one mistake I'm gonna make another, and that's just how it goes on the mountain.
Yeah.
I'm praying for the best race possible, but I've done a couple of races on single public lobbies, and it's hardly I make it out alive, let's put it that way.
That's the mountain, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Congratulations tonight, Overtaker, on that P4 and the race win in race 1. The championship standings provisional, as always, at the moment. Steward inquiries will now take place over the weekend, and the tables will get fully posted when they are fully published. Sylph leads the championship by 8 points from Hoopert. Tordock is P3 on 11 points. 11 points behind. Dan Davis P4, 30 points behind. Overtaker's P5, 36 points off the back. Michael Harris P6, he's 56 points behind. Then it's Patrick Ledger, Matt Wright, Kieran O'Reilly, and Jamal Clouden, 66 points behind, rounding out the top 10. Ben Rook is 11th from Mike Matthews with Skunky 13th. Sky Schundelmeyer 14th. Tobias Hopper down in 15th place with Richard Beasley, Viper, McGowan, O'Brien, Gary Leach, Darren Yo, Unsworth, Ethan Coe and Joe Bates. The others haven't scored a point, haven't raced yet this season, but it's the MSA Racing team who are 86 points clear of Team Audio Sport at the top of the Constructors the team's championships at the moment, with the Greasy Bandits sitting in third, 91 points behind. The leaders, SimPlay Racing, are P4 with Team FBR in P5. Quantum Motorsport P6, Old School Racers P7, Team SPR P8, Scuderia Tempesta P9, Effect Motorsport P10, and the Red Rum Racing are P11. In terms of that manufacturer battle, well, Ferrari have just punched themselves to make it a 3-horse race between themselves, McLaren and Porsche. It's McLaren 43 points clear of Porsche, 70 points clear of Ferrari. Huge drop off then to BMW, Ford, Aston Martin, Mercedes, Ginetta, Chevrolet, Lamborghini, Alpine, Nissan, Bentley, Honda, Lexus, Audi. And that is, to be fair, a pretty close race. I think that's one of the closest three-way fights in the Manufacturers' Championship we've ever seen here. Normally McLaren or Bentley or Ferrari have run away with it by this stage of the season. Kelly, fantastic night's worth of racing once again. The mountain next, tricky Bathurst, Mount Panorama to come. What do we expect next week?
Well, this season's just getting better and better, if you ask me. It's absolutely fantastic. What can we expect? Trials and tribulations, people in the wall. Absolutely, the mountain is tricky. It scares me. It scares Matt. We've been up and down it a couple of times. It scares most. It cannot be underestimated, and you cannot be placid when you go up and down there. You have to have your wits about you and be on maximum attack. So, great racing, and it all starts Tuesday night.
It does start Tuesday night with Dan Davis in the box for the GT4s. Hopefully Lexi will be back in the commentary box for the first time this season on Wednesday for the Pro-Ams, and then Sweden Sticky will be back on Thursday night. Myself and Kelly will return for the Pro action. Make sure you hit a like, drop a subscribe, and hit that notification button if you like what you see here at SimPlay Motorsport. We are approaching 900 subscribers. But
sponsors.
We are approaching that halfway stage of the season. Sponsorship done by Design Manchester and Audio Sport. Their links are in the description. And I swear now, we need a little picture for them, I think, because every week the racing is that enthralling and entertaining. We are forgetting to mention the sponsors, especially when we have a little chat in qualifying. We do forget the sponsors because there is so much action happening this season. It is incredible. But it is not done. The Ford Mustangs seems to be the car to pick at the moment, in the Pro Series at least. But Dan's Porsche, Overtaker's Ford, Kieran O'Reilly's Honda are trying to stop the MSA drivers in that top three. And they're all knocking on the door. Pro-Am interesting as well. Different race winners we're seeing, and GT4s. It's going to be fascinating once again. Bathurst, Mount Panorama is calling. And I tell you what, it's always been a clean race. You want to go back through the history of SimPlay Motorsport, check out the playlists. Season 4 of Pro-Am. Bathurst was the final race of the season in the wet, where it came down to a countback of second places with this man, Kelly Davis.
And who won that one? Who won that one?
To Rabbit Joe. In what was an
No, the race.
Won the race. You won the race, I do believe. But what an enthralling championship fight that was. That was probably one of the best Bathurst races on the channel. Go and check that one out in the wet. Dan wants the rain. Everybody else probably wants it dry. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Good night.